All right, folks, we are live Monday night or Monday afternoon watch talk for me, Monday night for the European crew. Doing some watch talk today for a couple hours on the ArchieLuxury live stream. So, want to welcome all of the viewers. Wait for a couple people to populate in. Going to say hi to a few of the comments. Paul B, hello. Yankee Doodle, good fan of the channel. Good to see you. Mr. 7752, you big up men like Tenzio. Thank you so much. Aaron Fletcher says, please say yes. And I did respond with a yes. And yeah, just going to go through some watch talk this afternoon, see if anybody's around, see if anybody wants to talk some watches, engage with the chat. Made sure I logged on time, or else I'm pretty sure I would have been called out for being like AC3 and actually not logging on time. So how's it going, Jimmy, my Californian brother? Hopefully you're well this afternoon. I picked this time slot, usually if I have, some time off in the afternoon or whatever, but yeah, I think it's a good time slot for folks in Europe, folks in the UK, folks in Ireland. It's probably like, I think right now in the UK it's 6:30. On the mainland of Europe, it's about 7:30. So, just figured do a bit of a pre-show for everybody. Archie will be on at his usual scheduled time. But yeah, I thought I'd, just hop on, talk some watches, talk some stuff. What up, JB? Good fan of the channel. JB, I was actually thinking about you, and I was thinking of a European stream. I know that you supported in the morning channel, the morning show, and then I know that you come around sometimes in the late evening. So 6:30 in Portugal, yes, sir. I visited Portugal myself. I went to Lisbon, beautiful city. Had a great time. Did a bit of work out in Portugal a few years back when I used to live in Ireland. So Menace says tea time. Might be a little late for tea time in the UK. I think that's around 4 o'clock, but maybe for you it is tea time. So welcome to the channel. I think I'll run let me see if I can pull a good intro. I don't really like AC3's usual intros. I think that they're just a little boring and not really my cup of tea. I like to run some classic intros. So for everybody that's coming in, I'm going to run the classic AC3 intro for you guys to start the European stream here. So let's go. I never know why he doesn't run that intro. He runs that I don't know, 60s music. It's like, I don't know. It's not really my cup of tea, but this is probably my favorite intro of all time. Jimmy says OG intro. Yeah, absolutely. Probably my favorite intro of all time. I'm not a big fan of the dungeon intro. I'm not a big fan of the main channel intro, so main show intro. So I thought I'd run the classic intro for everybody. So hopefully everyone's having a good afternoon, good night, good evening. I'll be going through a few topics of watches, just kind of, I guess we'll just freestyle it, whatever the chat wants to kind of talk about in watches. You could talk a bit of drama if the chat wants to talk a bit of drama, but just want to just kick it, hang out. Wasn't really doing anything this afternoon. So, Aaron, I'm doing well. Hopefully you're doing well as well. And yeah, just kind of go with the flow, see what the punters want to talk about. Some watch talk this afternoon. So. But yeah, I think kind of first topic I was going to go through was, as you guys can kind of see the avatar here. We got Dis joining us. Dis,
hey,
how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Thank you. Good, man. Good. My my favorite part about the morning stream was when I think it was Higgins who logs on and he says, "Dis, nice pajamas," and you're like, "They're not pajamas."
Yeah, it happened.
I think someone super chatted you to unbutton another button on your shirt. So
somebody did that. Yeah.
I don't know if that actually went through. If you did unbutton another button, maybe you did later on in the day. We got Jake Crooks who's asking what Porsche is that steering wheel attached to. It's a Porsche Macan Turbo, winter driver for me. And it's not a bad car in the winter. I have an X3 BMW. I have a 3 Series BMW. So, the Canadian winters here are not very nice. And all-wheel drive is definitely important for any SUV that you have here. So we've got Curly saying, damn, this looking sexy. Link for CW and crap. This can manage who gets the links, and he can drop the link if he wants for folks. But yeah, I was just gonna do some watch talk today. If you want to, obviously join in on the watch talk. We can do a bit of drama talk, as you're obviously on the stream and know a lot more about the drama than I do. But yeah, no, I was kind of talking about just the avatar here and the Royal Oak in the avatar. And a lot of folks know that I used to own a Royal Oak 15300 in the past. Similar dial as the white silver dial, and I sold that watch. I had it when I had a Patek 5711 blue, and unfortunately sold that watch. And it's been many years since I have not owned a Royal Oak, and I picked up one around Christmas because I wasn't able to find a Patek 5212. So I kind of wanted to talk about a couple of the. Hodicky did a really good article on eight things or eight really facts about the Royal Oak that a lot of people didn't know. So I was going to kind of pull it on. Now, AP is done. They have a great piece on their website that shows, it's called AP Chronicles, that goes through a lot of the history of the Royal Oak and really from the brand itself. There's a lot of myths that exist about this watch, and the brand itself actually going through a true history of the piece and kind of doing a bit of myth busting. But a couple of things I wanted to kind of show was, and I'll pull up I'll pull up my screen here so everyone can kind of see what I'm looking at. But eight little things you didn't know about the Royal Oak. I'd say the first one, if we go into the first thing we didn't know about the Royal Oak is the actual ask for the Royal Oak came outside of Audemars Piguet. So everybody's obviously aware that Audemars Piguet makes the Royal Oak, and it was released in 1972. And the watch itself was a request. So at the time, AP was a pretty small manufacturer. They maybe only sold like 5,000 watches a year. Pretty much a far cry from what they're selling today. And they were looking to expand, and they connected with a distributor of watches called SIHH, and the distributor, SSIH, not SIHH, SSIH. The distributor actually had requested from AP, okay, well, you're going to enter this distribution agreement with us, and they had requested from AP prior to the Basel World 1970 show to make a high prestige timepiece in steel. So the actual request for the Royal Oak didn't come from George Goulet, who was the CEO of AP at the time, but it actually came as a request from a distributor that they were looking to enter into a partnership with, which is quite interesting. It's not really well known that that's the case, but it's pretty interesting to think that a lot of people assume that hey, AP is going through this tough patch, and they're going to come out with this steel model to really save the brand. And the reality was that AP was probably just doing a regular business. They were going through regular business and looking at, hey, we want to maybe expand our sales, and let's work with a distributor, which isn't uncommon in business even today. And so they reached out to SSIH, the distributor, and it was a large distributor. You can see here on the screen where the distributor had about 7,000 employees and 15,000 retailers around the world. So quite a large distributor. And so it says here the top 3 SSIH agents asked Goulet, the CEO of AP, the day before Basel World 1970 to make a high prestige timepiece in steel. And I'm going to kind of show the photo of the Royal Oak, a Series A from 1974 with a tropical dial here. So that's where it really starts is, the distributor asks AP to create this watch, and then obviously AP, then goes to, as everyone knows, goes to Joe Genta the day before Basel World 1970 to come up with, the design. So second fact, little known fact, and obviously not really little known, is Goulet really did give Gerald Genta one night to come up with the design. So this is this Jin 10? It's not Jin, it's this. This is my partner today. Jin is I think he's on a vacation out in the west coast of Canada right now, so he's enjoying his time with another fan of the channel, long-term fan of his or friend of his. So this is not unknown that the CEO of AP had asked Gerald Genta to make a design of a watch in one day. What's really important here is number one, it's myth busting. It did actually happen, and number two, just really the thought around it, right? Is if you think about them doing, asking for a design of a watch in one day, basically to present to the distributor, is important because you think about like designing a watch. Whoa, Dish, we got a big super chat here for you. You can read it out here. I'm gonna pull it up.
Super chat, Curly Q2, $100. These first contributions to this day at a men's spa and Gonzo Stream Fund. Our goal is $750 for a this makeover and Gonzo Stream. Thank you, Curly.
Thank you, Curly. I think this got a bit of style going. A couple of the buttons are down, and I think he's just relaxing right now. He's at his home. He's just in his element, relaxing. But definitely huge super chat from Curly. Thank you so much, great supporter, leader of the dungeon. Guy who hops on to the main streams to help us out. Guy who does a lot of background work, for AC3. So really appreciate that. But yeah, back to kind of watch talk. So this is true that Genta was given a night, and if you really think about it, this is, this really didn't give a lot of time to, and maybe probably for the best, to kind of second guess yourself as you're designing a piece. Because if you think about it, like in today, when brands design a new watch, like they're going to spend years designing a piece, refining it, really taking their time to actually go and ensure that that is the piece they want to release. So it's so wild to think that one person just scribbled a design, and then they were like, "Yep, this is what we're going to go with." So definitely pretty inspiring to see, really iconic, and that's kind of why I started with this watch specifically. The Royal Oak is it's a polarizing piece. I actually didn't like it when I first saw it in pictures when I started watch collecting. When I actually had one on the wrist, it looked really good. So it was really something that I felt that I had to really see in person and put on in person to really love. But yeah, no, this is pretty wild that they picked a night and that was it. They didn't really have a lot of time. They didn't go and really refine it and try to push the design over a long period of time. It was this is what we're gonna go with. This is the sketch we're gonna go with, and then go from there.
I want to say about this too. First, of course, to those who don't know, like this design became one of the most iconic designs in Swiss watches, horology, whatever. Often it was imitated, right? It was
so it's imitated. It's imitated even to today. This go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, overnight this guy did it. So as somebody who I'm not an artist, but I used to work like in freelancing type of job, and sometimes I had a deadline for like 8 hours, for example, and the product I created was actually usually very good. So pressure is and time deadlines can be good for you. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that like even today we overthink things. And if you think of the AP, the new release, the code 1159, right? Like not a very popular piece when it came out. And even though if you actually look at it closely, it definitely is pretty unique in certain areas. But they probably stewed over building a new watch because hey, they wanted to get away from just being a one-trick pony with the Royal Oak. And it took years on years. Where this is something that literally, the conception of it was overnight. Here on the screen, you can kind of see a couple of different Genta pieces between the Universal Genetic Pole Router, the Royal Oak itself, and then the Nautilus, which was released in 1976 for Patek Philippe. So definitely pretty interesting. Now, third fact that we didn't know: the design of the Royal Oak was the result of a misunderstanding, and I'm actually going to read this out to you guys. Goulet, who's the CEO of AP, told Genta that he wanted a steel sports watch that had never been done before, but Genta says that he misheard him. I incorrectly understood him to have said, whose water resistance has never been done before. I remembered as a child having seen a diver being fitted with a helmet on Geneva's Pont de la Machine. I was very impressed when I saw the 8 bolts and the rubber seal designed to protect that person's life underwater. So, literally speaking, it was all a misunderstanding. The way the actual case design is, when you look at the the 8 screws on the piece, it's just interesting that it's literally off for a misunderstanding. So it kind of even goes towards the mystique of it, in that sense that it was so stumbled upon, a piece that's become so iconic, which wasn't heavily designed and really thought out that much. Where it was the case. So I got Jonathan Quayle Higgins. Code 1159 and Odysseus are prime examples that committees and lengthy design processes are not always the key to great design. It's an absolute great point, Jonathan. I'm gonna pull up the next one. Hope that you show the original Hublot a bit later, guys. Jonathan, I'll drop the link for you as well if you want to join us, on the stream to just kind of go through. I'm actually going to go through some GPHG pieces later on, Jonathan. So definitely would love your input. I know that you'd seen some of these pieces live, so I think you could give us a pretty unique perspective. But the design of the Royal Oak being a misunderstanding. It's like he misheard what the CEO was even asking for, which could have been a complete freaking disaster. But that's not actually the case. Point number 4, the diving helmet. What diving helmet? So the misnomer here is the diving helmet having 8 bolts here. So the story that Genta remembered seeing a diving helmet with 8 bolts on it, on the faceplate or on the shoulder piece, the corselet as it's called, or anywhere else, sure sounds believable. The only problem is it's awfully hard to find an 8-bolt diving helmet, and AP's own research, the ones that they were doing on their chronicles of their website, to talk about the history of the Royal Oak, the research itself has failed to uncover one with an octagonal faceplate. So AP actually says that the octagonal shape definitely stems from another source. It's not even necessarily potentially from a specific diving helmet that they can actually see. Jay Sykes says the only code 1159 I like is the aventurine dial. And look, I think this is a design that they came out with that, like I said earlier, was not extremely popular. It didn't have a lot of fanfare. I think that they're going to try to refine as much as they can. I think they've kind of, they've gone all in here with that piece. So they're going to have to, make some decisions on it. But back to the Royal Oak, what diving helmet, right? AP can't even find an example of it. AP's archivist mentioned an octagonal parcel within a weighing machine in the small office AP had in Geneva, which they think may be a stretch, but maybe the actual source of the inspiration. So definitely, this is a watch, like Hodinky writes, a watch designed in one night based on a diving helmet that never existed, from a design brief misunderstood by the designer. What could possibly go wrong? Absolutely, right? Like, what could possibly go wrong? Complete misunderstandings, like the diving helmet that doesn't exist, and basically given one night. So I'm gonna stop there. You mentioned you dabbled in design, right? If you were working for if you'd had a client that was asking you for something specific and you kind of fumbled so many times, I mean, what do you think could happen as a designer and even as a supplier to that client?
Well, I wasn't a designer. Okay, so just to make that clear, I guess that
I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying if you were to design something, somebody who has some experience, I would say, whether that's just you dabbling it as a hobby or whatever, right? Like, clear misunderstanding from the client of what they were looking for. You were given one night to do it, and you know, there's not even really, it's based on something fictional that doesn't even exist, right? Like they're saying this diving helmet, the 8-bolt diving helmet, like you know, it doesn't even necessarily exist, right? So what do you think that's a recipe for disaster?
Well, I think it depends on your character. I mean, if you're getting hysterical, then yeah, it's a disaster. But if you keep it cool and you employ all your abilities, then you can do something, half decent or maybe iconic. That's what I think.
And that's exactly what happened, right? Like what we think could be a recipe for disaster actually became the perfect storm and
Mhm.
ended up becoming an icon. Um, you know, it was confirmed that the first prototype of the Royal Oak actually was not in steel; it was in white gold. So AP was Genta was tasked to work with a case maker, and that case maker was Fab and Perret, and they were specialists in making fine gold cases. You know, they've been around for a long time. Fab and Perret told Genta at first that his design would not work. You know, and I think that because there was because the supplier SSIH had requested a specific steel piece. You know, there's a bit of pushback, obviously, that came from AP and Genta. So after some back and forth, 4 prototypes were ordered. A white gold prototype was shown at the 2 SSIH representatives in 1971, and then from which the project got the green light. So again, right, like the connection between the distributor SSIH and AP is very important because a lot of folks may think, well, it's AP calling the shots, right? Well, AP again is struggling as a business. They are looking to a distributor to help them expand sales. So that distributor has a lot of clout when it comes to the decision making when it comes to this piece, which is very, very interesting. It's probably not very talked about. So the SSIH agents ordered 800 pieces. Golay decided to order a first series of 1,000 pieces in steel, with the order then signed, obviously, by Jacques-Louis Audemars in May of 1971, the largest quantity of a single model ever ordered by Audemars Piguet up until that point. So, and again, right, we're talking about pieces that are just, at a time when AP was a very small manufacturer, did not necessarily produce a lot of watches. Let's pull up Jay Sykes' comment. I wonder if Genta had an idea of a vague diving helmet in his mind and figured 8 screws made sense to him. Maybe it's better he didn't have a photograph to reference. Absolutely, right? Like this is really where there isn't, Genta's obviously not here with us, so can't necessarily comment, but where everyone's speculating. It's a myth. Everyone's speculating, like, did this diving helmet actually exist? It's because we can't find one that is similar. Did Genta just make it work with 8 bolts specifically, or did he just get it wrong and just thought it was 8? Right? Like it's nobody will know. But AP, the historians themselves were like, well, there was a machine in the office that was of a similar octagonal shape that the Royal Oak could have been, and Genta could have seen that. So definitely a mystery that we won't solve today. I wanted to bring to light because it's just something that a lot of people didn't know about the piece. I thought this article was really cool. Like the good thing about this article is it really summarizes. Like there's hours of stuff on the AP website into their Chronicles section around the Royal Oak. So to summarize that is very hard, but Hodinkee did a really good job summarizing a lot of the important pieces that I thought was here. So, point number 6, it was a swan song for Genta at Audemars Piguet. So Gerald Genta had a long, productive relationship with Audemars Piguet, but also had gotten tired of being a hired gun and wanted to start his own brand. So this is kind of the time where Genta, he creates this piece for AP. It becomes, quite successful. And here it says, AP says there are conflicting reports on how Golay even took the news that Genta was leaving, ranging from enraged to relieved. The last year of development of the Royal Oak from Basel 1971 to 72 took place without Genta himself, who in 1972 showed his first own brand watch at Basel, a wooden watch with a wooden bezel held in places by 13 gold screws. So this is a time when Genta is breaking off from AP. He creates this piece for AP, and then he's off to do his own thing. He's obviously been successful as a hired gun. He's created a lot of interesting pieces already. This is prior, obviously, guys, to the creation of the Nautilus, where he created the Nautilus for Patek Philippe, but he had at this point kind of broken off to do his own brand. So here comes an interesting point. That's 8 things that we didn't know about the origin of the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak came very close to being called the Safari. There was a few names, some candidate names that were taken from that the historians have found from minutes of a meeting in September 1971. That the Royal Oak could have been called the Safari, could have been called the Grand Prix, could have been called the Diane, the Surf Rider, the Colorado, and Ascot. So the Royal Oak itself was apparently suggested, again, influence of the distributor, was suggested by SIHH agent for Italy, Carlo De Marchi, as an homage to the Royal Oak warships of the Royal Navy. The name is, a sad history. It was the battleship Royal Oak, which was sunk at anchor at Scapa Flow by a U-boat during World War II, with a loss of 800 on the ship's company. So again, the distributor itself has such a huge influence on this piece that many people probably didn't know that it was maybe AP that had the influence, but not the distributor itself. But a lot of different names, I don't know if it'd be wildly successful being named the Diane or the Safari. They did, I believe there is a Royal Oak offshore called the Safari, or nicknamed the Safari. But yeah, no, it's wild that they would go, and go or have all these different names. I'll pause there. What do you think about these names that the Royal Oak could be called? Safari, Grand Prix, Diane, Surf Rider, Colorado, and Ascot. Do you think any of these names would have been fitting to an icon?
I mean, we are looking at it, like we're judging history from the current time, so it's easy to say, but really these names are. Grand Prix, I mean, what does it have to do with Grand Prix? No, they're all no relation.
Right? So just interesting that these are the kind of names that they were brainstorming. And the last point, the rumors of an early commercial failure being exaggerated. So I'll kind of tell this story. So there's a story that at Basel, when the Royal Oak was first introduced, that a lot of people were going to the AP booth and just touting, how great it was, and how amazing it was and whatnot. And then 5 minutes later, they'd go around the corner saying these guys are going to be out of business within 6 months. So that is the story that like people tell was AP. AP was like that, and just the Royal Oak was kind of not wildly successful when it first came out. Curly says, Tan, check out Danish diving helmet. So Curly, whether a Danish diving, and we can definitely pull that up a little later, whether a Danish diving helmet existed or not, Gerald Genta talks about this diving helmet that he saw in Switzerland, right? So maybe it was a Danish diving helmet that was in Switzerland at the time. Maybe we can look this up, Danish diving helmet. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull up. Oh, yeah, here we go. Danish diving helmet. Let's pull her up. Share this tab. So we got a Danish diving helmet. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is what Curly is saying was potentially the diving helmet. That could have been seen by Gerald Genta at the time. He was very specific, Curly, in terms of talking about seeing it in Switzerland. So I'm not sure if this is the helmet or a helmet that he could have seen at the time. Very, very popular. Narc, check out German helmet. But yeah, no, it's definitely a mystery that AP themselves can't really decipher and myth bust whether it was actually seen or not. So back to the rumor of AP, the Royal Oak, being a commercial failure. So one of the many stories about and I'm going to read this from Hodinky, this is not from me. One of the many stories about the Royal Oak that circulated over the years is that it began as a commercial flop. AP calls this a widespread misconception. The watch had a slow start in some markets. They admit that Italy, oddly enough, Wagenta obviously being an Italian-Swiss designer, what they thought was strange was there was definitely skepticism, and also around the price of the piece being 3,650 Swiss francs at the time for a steel piece. Can you just confirm? Oh, here we go. I know this guy. You got the Rodin 3.0 Jin. What's happening?
Hey.
Can you verify? I think he's authenticated. This.
Yeah, he is. It's him. It's him.
Yeah, you can bring him in. You can bring him in.
Okay. Hi,
Gentlemen.
Hey,
Gentlemen,
good evening.
we got an all-star panel. We got Jin and Higgins and Dis.
I think I have to leave because the competence of this panel will beat me to the ground. So
No. We're actually going to get into GPHG in a second. I'm just going to finish up here on the Royal Oak topic. So I'm just going to talk about this last piece. I'm going to read off their page. So Goulet astonishingly didn't even mention the Royal Oak in his annual report to the board in '73. But in 1973, AP was already making more than 500 Royal Oaks. Between 72 and 78, the company says that a total of 6,050 reference 5402 models, which is the original jumbo, were produced in the A, B, C, and D series, including 4,280 in steel, 876 in two-tone gold, 736 in yellow gold, and 150 in white gold. So, their response to it being a failure was that it wasn't, and then the sales were very strong. So
I think you mentioned it earlier that somebody said everybody was interested in the watch, and then they turned around in Basel and said that AP has gone totally crazy, and that will sink the concrete boat. I think that was Jean-Claude Biver himself, who, if I recall it correctly, he was in the management of AP back then.
Yeah, it's a story. It's a rumored story. It could have been directly from Biver himself that was happening. And I don't doubt that was happening, right? You're talking about a time when you're pulling out this like steel piece that's like being priced, at very, very high prices.
Prices. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I don't doubt that was actually happening. But AP is refuting the statement that the Royal Oak was not successful out of the gate, and they're quoting kind of sales figures from 72 to 78. So that's their take on it. Nobody's going to really know on that. But,
and the problem is the problem is also, or the question is, what are you talking about? So when the importer is ordering 500 pieces, that doesn't mean that he can sell them to his clients, and that doesn't mean that his clients, the jewelers, are able to sell those to their clients. So the big question is which channel of sales are we talking about?
Exactly. So there's a huge. So I don't know if you guys or Jen, I don't know if you guys caught the whole kind of the whole segment that I've been talking about the past 30 minutes was just the importance of the distributor being the original. The distributor was the one that requested AP to create this watch. The distributor was the one who actually recommended the name for the watch. So they had a huge influence on AP. AP had reached out to the distributor to obviously expand sales. The distributor themselves had such an important play here in the watch, and AP is not hiding that. They're not trying to hide the history of that, which I find fascinating. It's just something that, as a consumer, somebody who owns the Royal Oak probably would never have thought, never have really understood. But it makes absolute business sense. Jen, what are your thoughts on that the distributor's influence was that huge to create such an icon?
Yeah, I had no idea either, but it totally does make sense when you think that the distributor is one step closer to the consumer, and they kind of they have probably a stronger intuition in many ways of what people want and what people would be interested in.
So Higgins is saying you would have called the watch the offshore. I think the names were the Safari, which I believe they do have an offshore that's either nicknamed the Safari.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they were talking about like the Diane, the Grand Prix, the Ascot, some weird names that I don't know. Like I don't know if they would
Yep.
ever really catch on. So.
Look, this said it has nothing to do with car racing or with Grand Prix, but it doesn't have anything to do with an oak as well. So we can we can have this discussion all night long, I guess. So
That's right. Good point.
I personally would have loved a Safari equally as the Offshore, because it was a sporty watch, and that is a watch that somebody with a decent amount of money would take on a Safari.
One point I do want to get your guys' take on. You know, I asked this to Dis, so maybe Jin and Jonathan, you guys could chime in. So the design of the Royal Oak was a result of a misunderstanding. So Golay had told Genta that he wanted a steel sports watch that had never been done before, but Genta had misheard what he said. I correctly misunderstood him to have said, whose water resistance has never been done before. And that's when Genta kind of goes into talking about the diver. I remembered as a child having seen a diver being fitted with a helmet on Geneva's Pont de la Machine. I was very impressed when I saw the 8 bolts and the rubber seal designed to protect a person's life underwater. So complete misunderstanding of what they were looking for. What do you guys think of that? I think that's a pretty wild and really interesting story.
Well, time was short, so it's a gateway to a misunderstanding. And Jay Sykes, yes, I know that it was a Navy ship. If I know correctly, it was a UK Navy ship. So that meaning would be limited to the UK, which was probably not the key market for this particular watch. But I like the name, and the rest is history.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap here on the Royal Oak story. We've talked about it for 30 minutes. We've got the expert here who knows a lot of these watches from the GPHG prize list. I want to go through these watches in depth, Jonathan, if you have some time. Hopefully your wife has given you the green light to at least stream with me on the Archie.
No, she hasn't.
Well,
I have to leave in 20 minutes or so. So
no problem. We'll start with the top winner here, the Aiguille d'Or Grand Prix winner from MB&F. This is the Legacy Machine Sequential Evo. I'm going to click into it. There's a video. I'm actually going to play the video for everybody as well, so they can kind of see it. But this piece is a dual chronograph. I'll read the functions: hours, minutes, power reserve indicator, chronograph, split-second chronograph, lap timer, and cumulative timing modes. 172,000 Swiss francs. This is made in zirconium. I'm going to play the video for everybody just to kind of see how this watch works before Jonathan can kind of give us his take on the piece. So let me just click the video. I'm going to see if I can click it with sound. So let me stop this. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share the tab. I'm going to share the tab with sound because I want to play some sound on this one because there is some sound on this video, and we can kind of go through this MB&F while listening to the sound. Share tab audio sound, yeah. Make sure my sound is up, yeah. Get full screen. I'll make it full screen for everybody. All right. Hopefully you guys got sound on that. I didn't. I can't really hear the sound on mine. So let me know if you
There
guys
was
did get sound.
some music.
Some music. Okay, so we got some music here. So the twin verter that they talk about. So just to read a bit of the description, the sequential Evo features 2 complete chronograph displays, each with a large 60-second counter and a small 30-minute counter. There's the twin verter is I don't know I don't know if this is proprietary to them. The twin verter binary switch that allows multiple timing modes, split second, sequential lap timer, and even a cumulative chess mode. I don't know, Jonathan, if you know anything about the chess mode.
Mm-hmm.
The case is in zirconium, which is lighter than stainless steel, more durable than titanium. The watch is 80 meters of water resistance, screw down crown, integrated rubber strap, galvanic black dials with superluminova, and the flex shock ring. In terms of the finishing, superlative hand finishing, internal bevel angles, handcraft, polished bevels, Geneva waves, handmade engraving, and darkened bridges on the piece. So Jonathan, this is a bit of an introduction on the watch. You've I think seen this in person. What are your thoughts of the winner of the Aiguille d'Or at the GPHG?
I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the legacy machines in total. So what you see here is basically a watch with 2 independent chronographs. And that sequential thing is to synchronize or to desynchronize the 2 chronographs. So first example, you can start both chronographs at the same time, or you can stop them at the same time. Or you can start one chronograph, and when you press that sequential button, that first chronograph stops and the second is starting. So there are a variety of applications that you can have, including the chess watch, which basically means this has time to think about his next move. So his time is running. When this makes the move, his time is stopped and my time is counting until I do the next move. So that is basically how our chess timer works.
It's a very expensive piece where you can buy a little chess clock for much, much cheaper at
Indeed.
the dollar store. Yeah, I would assume. Were you able to handle? I know you guys, you and Swiss got into a bit of trouble handling the Van Cleef and Arpels, which is the watch you wanted to see. Were you able to handle this watch or see this up close, or
I think we would have ended in jail, but because our allowance was already eaten off by the Van Cleef and Arpels. Which other watch did we try on? I think we tried 2 or 3, and at the third one, the guard was yelling at us. After the first one, he was politely whispering us to leave it. After the third one, he was yelling at us. So we didn't have the...
Consider yourself lucky, because I think back in 2018, me and Jin, who's Rodent 3.0 on the panel, we tried, I think, go to SIHH or something, and I think I requested as a press pass because we were on the ArchieLuxury channel. We never got a response from SIHH to get a press pass to get there. I think it was because Jin had seen, because you went to Watch, was it Watch Time you went to in New York, where you got to meet Bill Sanders and he was walking around with a press pass?
Yeah.
So I got the idea from that, hey, if Bill Sanders can get a press pass at Watch Time, maybe we could get a press pass at SIHH, and then we could fly out to SIHH together and cover it on behalf of the Pontiff. But unfortunately, they didn't recognize the ArchieLuxury channel as a true journalism channel. I don't think it is a journalism channel for watches, but that is the little story. So this is the MB&F. I'll open it to the panel. This Rodent 3.0. What do you guys think of the MB&F? It's the winner of the Aiguille d'Or, prestigious award for MB&F to win. What do you guys think of this piece?
Again, well, not my cup of tea, but I appreciate that it's very, unique and complicated. I don't know. It doesn't look like a watch to me. It's not supposed to look like a watch, I guess, but that's my opinion.
All right, Voulez-vous $2. She's just saying, did I hear someone say Van Cleef? You know what, John? So we have Jonathan Higgins on the line. Voulez-vous, just for you, we're gonna go straight to the women's piece that Jonathan was handling. Was really enjoying. This is the Van Cleef and Arpels.
Can you pull up my YouTube channel, because it's better than the official watch company
Sure.
video, in my opinion.
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Swiss and John. Do you want to? And if there's
the YouTube channel is called. It is my personal channel, so it's my screen name. Jonathan Collegens.
It wasn't on Swiss and John show. Okay.
No. So voulez-vous? I think she knows it already. This beautiful watch. So the dial has 12.
Was it a short? Was it a short that you did, Jonathan? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull this short.
Pretty short.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So let me see if I can pull this up. I'm going to share this tab.
And you can see Swiss hand here handling it.
Link for Aaron.
Here the flowers are closing and then they go up then when the next hour is starting. So here goes the end of the hour and then boom, the next hour has arrived and the flowers open and the number of open blooms indicates the number of hours.
See, this is what a watch should be, I think, like a really high-end watch. Like it's such a creative way of telling time. Because if you just need to tell the time, you can look on your phone, you can get a quartz watch, there are better technologies. I think it should really be about mechanical watches should be kind of surprising and kind of emotionally evocative like this.
I agree with you. In my opinion, this is the watch for 2021, 2022, 2023, no matter how you count it. It's just gorgeous, romantic, and crazy.
They make a few watches like this that are really, I mean, the price is obviously matching the kind of the level of craftsmanship you see and the kind of rarity, but they're amazing to at least admire from distance.
I wonder if they have one guy with those ideas who is then realizing them, obviously with computer-aided construction, or if that's a team. My guess is that it's someone just like Max Büsser or probably F.P. Jorn or someone whose name is unknown yet, who puts out all those crazy ideas. By the way, that is the minute indicator that you see on the side. Just in case somebody asks, how do you read the minutes?
So this is made in pink gold, mother of pearl dial. It's a 38 millimeter watch. Ladies, Arpel Heure, Floral, Cerisier, watch, rose gold, white gold. So it has a combination of different metals, rose gold, white and yellow diamonds, pink sapphires, white mother of pearl, miniature painting, self-winding mechanical movement. It's equipped with a flower operating module for the hours and lateral minutes display. To pay tribute to the nature that has fascinated since 1906, the Maison has drawn inspiration from the floral clock concept, Horlogium Fleuret, developed by Carl von Linné in his 1751 book, Philosophia Botanica. So that's the inspiration of the piece. The piece is obviously quite expensive. That's 247,000 Swiss francs. Our friend Voulez-vous definitely would be, someone I think who would maybe be interested in purchasing this watch. John, I think you would even requested, you had even looked into the availability of this piece, right?
Yeah, I've been at the Van Cleef boutique in Monaco, but they didn't have it. So it was my chance to go to that GPHG exhibition, which is, by the way, free of charge. So you pay no entry. You don't have to present a press pass. You're just not allowed to touch the watches, which we found out. But all the winners, all the heavy hitters are on display there, and like you can see, they are not behind glass, which was really surprising to us because we expected all those fancy watches being in kind of showcases, but they made a very fancy construction so that the watches were right in front of your nose.
Yeah, that's and maybe I'll go to another piece that I think you may have handled here. So for you, Voulez-Vous, we skip straight to to some of the ladies' watches.
Voulez-Vous said
the winner.
they have it in Costa Mesa.
Oh yes, so they have it in Costa Mesa.
Mesa. Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully Voulez-Vous is going to be looking at this in person, and she's going to make a decision on whether it should don her wrist. She does have some Van Cleef I've seen on some of the streams. So I'm gonna pull up a piece that I know yourself, Jonathan, you weren't crazy about, and it's the Acrivia Chronomètre Contemporain #2.
I totally loved it.
Did you handle this one in person? Were you able to handle it at all?
No, I wish I could have turned it around, because the money shot is on the back with this watch and not on the front.
Yeah, let me play the video, because the video I think gives a bit more. The video gives a bit more insight into the actual piece. Where's the video here? It should be maybe on the main page. Yeah, it's the videos here. I'm gonna play this for you guys. Let's make sure you guys can see it. Yeah, you guys can see it. Make this full screen.
Have a look at that anglage. How
That's exactly what I was
deep and
looking
wide it is.
at.
Oh,
That's exactly what I was looking at right there. Was the anglage, and you can see when it's a intersecting point like that, and how deep it is, that it was done by hand. Go ahead, Jonathan. You've seen this in person, so give us kind of a take on it.
Well, like I said, I couldn't see the movement, which I would have loved to do. So it is an impressive piece. It goes a little bit under the radar if you see the front, because it's, I think, 38 or 39. What is very significant are the long lugs, in my opinion, slightly too long, but that is a common criticism for this particular watch. But when you see the movement finishing, everything is forgiven. Rexepi has no problems selling this limited series. I think he already did within the first day. So this is only a minor thing. If Jean-Pierre Hagman is doing the cases, you better shut up.
So Christian Fresh says Rexepi could become the next FP Journe.
I think he's already there. He just needs to make the complications.
Yeah, so this is a deadbeat seconds piece, as you guys could obviously see from the video. That's why I played it. This watch is in platinum, as Jonathan said, 38 millimeters, 8.75 millimeters thick, so not a very thick watch. Manual wind, power reserve of 82 hours, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and a price you said that was already sold out, 50 pieces for 125,000 Swiss francs. So very, very, folks that have, been fans of the GPHG will know Rexepi and his piece of the Acrivia brand. So Jonathan, what was, so you didn't like the lugs? I don't remember if you had talked about your view of the dial, whether you thought it was just a little too simple, whether you would have gone for something else. What would have been more your cup of tea in this watch to really make it more stand out?
I had the privilege to look at two very similar watches. This Rexepi and the Zenith watch with the competition chronometer movement. I forgot the name right now. My favorite was the Zenith. I think the Zenith looked slightly better, nicer. So that was the other highlight for me. I think you have to go to
Yeah, I know it's not in the it's not in
yeah.
the prize list, and my worry is if I go back, Jin's gonna see that I was looking at the Lyrique Etude numéro 1, and he'll start laughing at me. Jin, do you know the story of that one? Whether it was entered that they just, I know they entered that watch into it. I could probably pull it up here.
I don't know if it, so it is on a list, and I don't want to get
Well, look, we're not gonna trash talk the watch. We're gonna
no,
we're
no,
gonna
no,
go.
no.
It's like it's here, right? It was entered in the GPHG, the Lyrique Etude numéro 1. I don't know, Jonathan, if you had seen this watch at all when you were there.
I think the problem is that you need to like have a physical watch that you can send on tour. And does one even exist? Like really an actual?
I believe no. I think Bill Sanders actually has one here. So we got a super chat here from Voulez-Vous, $9.99. Thank you, Voulez-Vous. Hello to Rodent 3.0. Thank you to the panel for streaming. So Voulez-Vous, some history back when I used to stream in 2017, 2018. Rodent 3.0 was my teammate. Him and I used to be called the Tan and Gin Show with ArchieLuxury. We used to do the live streams back in the day. Rodent 3.0 is he was given that name because the Rodent 1.0 was TGV, the Rodent 2.0 was Bark and Jack, and the Rodent 3.0, also known as the Treacherous Snake, was Jin. I don't know why he calls it the Treacherous Snake, but
well, I don't know why I wrote in 3.0 either. So, but
yeah, I think I was a Rodent 4.0, and then Goldberg was a Rodent 5.0. Everyone's a Rodent. So this piece, the Lyrique Etude number 1, I know we're going to go through a bit of a just going down the wrong path here with us, but the piece is in steel. It's white lacquer down with black Arabic numbers, 39 millimeters, 9.75 millimeters thick. So obviously not a thick watch. It's I believe Bill Sanders actually has one because I think I saw him wearing it on one of his streams. This piece was limited to 70 pieces. Manual wind, power reserve of 40 hours, 21,600 vibrations per hour, and a price of 9,500 Swiss francs. So not going to spend a ton of time on it. Jonathan, you said you don't think you've seen this piece. I don't know if you wanted to make some comments on it just from what you think of its aesthetics. We're obviously not going to troll anybody here. We're going to keep it pretty professional. But maybe I'll blow it up a bit for you guys to have a look and see if this is something that interests anybody on the panel at all.
I think I haven't seen it at the GPHG exhibition. In fact, I made a show with a rancher where he, I think before the show, he showed it to me in secret. It was not out there back then. I think it's a beautiful watch for a very reasonable price. But I think the attention or the special thing is that this is a creation of a community at the internet. I think that is a special thing. That is not a company that puts out a design and asks the people to buy it. This is a community of fans, of enthusiasts, and so the development process is basically turned upside down, which to me is interesting, and I like the watch. Not sure if I would buy it, but I like it, and I can understand that people really want it. Rodent number 3, did you order one?
No, I did not. But I also did speak with Rancher while he was, on the journey. So I kind of heard about, a little bit about the behind the scenes of how it works. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting that it's designed by a community on one hand. I also think what maybe wonder what that really does to watchmaking when you have a community just kind of building it like by committee almost. And does the watch really represent the vision of one artist or one creator? When that happens, it's like kind of picking stuff out of a cafeteria. I don't know, maybe that's more like a philosophical question. Some may like that approach and some may prefer the more traditional approach.
All right, Jonathan, you are on the screen with your Zenith.
Yeah, that watch, in my opinion, was visually even more pleasing than the Recepi. I'm not talking about the movement finish, but that watch was really stunning in my opinion. It's also a black dial and very subdued case design, but this one was just astonishing. And you may know that I love butting my heads with you, Tanzil, or also with Marco Ferrante. Marco is of the opinion, or was of the opinion, that this Zenith is a money grab. This watch, I think it's 135,000.
And there's a connection with Kari Voutilainen on this piece, isn't there?
Oh, a lot. I think Kari Voutilainen is making the case, the dial, and he did a full service and improvement on the movement. So for an enthusiast, the movement doesn't look any special, but you have to understand what is behind that. Zenith was very successful in those chronometer competitions back then, and Zenith were kind enough to give out some of their competition chronometer movements for this project. So basically, you're having a sports car with a race engine here, and that is what I find very surprising and yeah, very, very interesting. Kari Voutilainen took those simple competition chronometer movements, buffed them a little bit up, brought them up to speed. But on this particular one, for example, you can see it doesn't even have a shock resistant.
Yeah,
on
no,
the balance wheel.
Yeah, look, I probably wouldn't fight you on this piece. I think it's definitely, it's definitely a heavy hitter. It's something that I can absolutely appreciate. I think that it's, the connection with Kari Voutilainen and just how unique this piece, and it's very limited from what I had heard from your stream when you were discussing it. You're just not something you're going to be able to walk into a Zenith boutique and be like, oh yeah, I want to buy one of these. It's not.
Oh, those are all sold out.
That's right. They're also Diff, I'll let you read the super chat before we continue.
Mm-hmm.
Who's reading it?
You can read it. Go ahead.
Super chat from Voulez-vous, $5. Rodent nomenclature. How do you nomenclature?
Yeah, nomenclature.
Archie 007 naming in MI6.
Yeah, it's just you're saying it's like a designation, like to be called a rodent. It's like getting a 00 number in the bond.
Okay.
Race.
So there's a license to kill. Okay.
Yeah. It's smart.
Patrick Philippe is asking, just tuning in, did Tan arrive on time? Patrick, you actually missed us talking about the Lyrique #1. We were discussing it, so I don't know if we're gonna. Well, I mean, you could super chat for us to talk about it later if you want. But we're giving Jonathan some time to talk to us about this Zenith, which is an interesting Zenith, not one I would fight him on, even though he thinks I would. It's definitely something that would be right up my alley.
So was this watch available only through Philips?
Yes and no. So I think Philips sold a couple of them to their special clients, and one or two have been auctioned off.
Okay. Is that? I mean, what do you think about that kind of distribution model? It's like it's very similar to like how art distribution kind of traditionally has been. Is it? Does it detract from you in any way when a watch is kind of made but is almost unattainable? I mean, regardless of like money.
But the same applies to all the brands that have boutiques. So a Lange minute repeater is given to their most loyal and best clients. So I don't see much of a difference. Not that I like it, but I think this kind of sales tactic is becoming more and more. I don't like it, but it's not the first time that something like that happens. It's the first time probably that the auction house is not acting as an auction house, but as an AD.
Mm-hmm.
Basically a producer and an AD, because it was their project. They brought Zenith and Kari Voutilainen together, and they financed it and sold them.
Yeah, that's extremely unique, and it's extremely interesting, especially as, like, more people start watching the auctions. Jin actually used to have a channel back in the day, a few years back, Jonathan, and he was streaming the auctions live back in the day and whatnot. And I know that other YouTubers have started to do that now. But obviously Phillips with Baxton Russo being a very prominent auction house. The connection is definitely quite interesting, and yeah, I think I think part of the GPHG is not just, and there is a category for icons where I'll kind of show the piece that won it, but to really look at unique pieces, really the strength of the brand, what they find is innovative or art, their top artwork, as you guys kind of saw with the Van Cleef and Arpels. So something like this is extremely interesting to me. Was the movement finished by Voutilainen? Do you know? I see some anglage on the movement. Was it himself who finished it? Do you have any understanding of who did the finishing on the movement?
He did slightly finish it, but he's on the record of saying he tried to be respectful, because you have to keep in mind those movements have not been intended to be pretty. Everything that counted was precision and performance. So nobody really gave attention to anglage or finishing. So it was Kari Voutilainen's job to bring a little bit of a glamour to those movements that are finished to a very basic level. But on the other hand, he didn't want to overdo it, and I think he did a pretty good job with that.
And that kind of goes to the question of the purpose of the piece, right? Like, Zenith is obviously showcasing, a piece under their brand that they've worked in collaboration with a few people, whether it's Kari Voutilainen on the actual, really presentation of the piece, to Phillips auction house in terms of potentially the distribution. Let me ask you, Jonathan, the point of this watch. Like, what do you think the statements they're trying to make, that Zenith wanted to make, presenting this into GPHG?
I think there are several points. So the first point, for the collector or for the final client who buys that, nobody is really able to buy those competition movements from a company. Good luck calling Zenith up and ask for one of their competition movements, because they're stacked up, sometimes presented in their museum, but that is their heritage. Those are their golden grails. So it is something for a collector who has a lot of things, minute repeater, perpetual calendar, you name it. And now he has a crazy thing with a great history, where Zenith, in that case, put really high efforts. And the combination then with the finishing and the dial by Kari Voutilainen certainly is something that you don't get very often. So it is really a super special thing for the enthusiast who already has everything. Additionally, in my opinion, it is also a very good item for Zenith, a halo item, that people are aware of Zenith's great history, heritage of doing those precision things, being very successful in those competitions. So in my opinion, that also lifts the brand for Zenith. So I think it is a win-win situation for Zenith and for the collectors. Phillips made a lot of money. So yeah, everybody's happy.
I'm gonna bring up a topic that's gonna make you a little happy. We're gonna move on from Zenith. I know that if you guys want to learn more about this, Jonathan's gone in depth into this piece specifically. I believe, did you did it on your channel, right, with Swiss and
Yes.
John? Or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So check out Jonathan's channel, Swiss and John, as well, because that's where I learned about this piece. He thought maybe I didn't see it, but I did see his video on this. I'm gonna go into the men's complication winner. This is from Hermes. The Arceau Le Temps Voyageur. This is you and I talked about world times. We spoke about world times on our last stream, and we got a world time piece. I'm going to blow it up here. Look at the cities, Jonathan. Is there anything in the cities you think is unique? Jen, what do you think on the cities? That's the first thing we looked at with Jonathan's watch. We'll start here before we go into the watch.
No, Jin, you go first, please.
Were there any CDs you'd replace here?
It is kind of interesting, isn't it? It's like this like some equestrian terms on the dial. Yeah, I find it interesting. Like the Central Asian cities are definitely interesting, unusual. I think
you have like, was it an Uzbek? Is Samarkand in Uzbekistan or?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, these are Central Asian cities.
Yeah.
That you won't see on anything else, which I find extremely interesting. What else, Jin? What else do you find interesting?
I think the rest are pretty what you would expect.
Jonathan, instead of Tahiti, took Bora Bora. He felt Tahiti
Absolutely.
wasn't good enough. He felt Tahiti was not good enough, and he wanted to go Bora Bora.
I think with like a Hermes watch, I think that makes sense. Like go for the glamorous cities and or the glamorous destinations.
This is the first guy I've ever said who said Athens is a glamorous city. I don't know if Athens would count as being glamorous.
No, it's maybe a couple thousand years ago, but not now.
Not now. Okay, so let's move on from the cities. Jonathan, I don't know if you had a comment on the cities. We just asked Jin's take. Maybe your take on the city.
I'm still wondering what 24 FBG means.
Is that like the Hermes?
That is Faubourg. That is the street 24 Faubourg, where Hermes headquarters is located. Now I get it.
Yeah, because it's a half an hour time zone difference from London, I believe.
No, it's a full,
or is it a full hour? Is it a full hour? Yeah, it's a full hour from London then. Yes, so you're getting a full hour. So that is the mainland. It's not listed as Paris, but actually Hermes is street. So that's pretty cool.
I understand that they took Beijing and not Hong Kong or Shanghai. So I approve with that. Nothing really crazy in my idea, and I can see Rio the way that I didn't write it on my world timer. But anyhow.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. It was just how you wrote Rio versus like you could have chosen Rio, Rio DJ, or R de Janeiro kind of a thing, like different ways to write Rio. So bit of watch nerding here, guys, on the cities, but it was something to. Jonathan, real quick, can you answer this question because people are asking about when's your next stream?
Should be next Saturday, 9:05 European time. So Berlin time. And
that's on the Swiss and John channel.
Yes, Swiss and John show.
Swiss and John. Have you found Swiss? Has Swiss been identified?
No.
His location is still unidentified.
The last show was together with Dodger, and so we will see if Swiss shows up or not. It's a big mystery.
It might become the Dungeon and John show. If Swiss doesn't show up, but
maybe you have time.
Yeah, look, like on Saturdays, it may be a time that would work where we can go through watches and do a similar watch talk that we're doing. Hey Bjorn, how you doing? We are going through GPHG. We're sparingly using Jonathan's time, trying to get as much value as I can from him on this. So this is a world timer. The unique traveling time mechanism developed exclusively for Hermes drives a display of 24 time zones by a circular disc and a mobile counter. The exclusive 122 component module is housed in, and this is interesting, a 4.4 millimeter thick case. A true technical and aesthetic challenge. The traveling time complication is integrated into the Hermes H1837 mechanical self-winding movement. So this is an automatic, 40 hours, power reserve, 28.8 vibrations per hour, and at a price of 26,850 Swiss francs. All right, Jonathan, I'm going to stop talking. You can take over here.
By Russ, who knows nothing about Hermes. Maybe you play the video to reply to his question.
Okay, yeah, I'll play the video here for you guys.
And by the way, we have been touching this particular watch, so we tried it out.
La même veine des complications pour des présenté ces dernières années autour du temps, nous avons voulu cette année présenter une nouvelle montre qui va parler quelque chose qui est important pour nous, c'est le temps et son imaginaire. Arceau, le temps voyageur, la particularité de cette montre, c'est justement les 24 fuseaux horaires. On va pouvoir appuyer sur le petit bouton à 9 heures et on va pouvoir déplacer ce satellite flottant qui va justement traverser cette fameuse planisphère, cette planisphère équestre qui a justement cette particularité de nous faire rêver à travers le monde.
Cette pièce a fait l'objet d'un brevet international déposé par Hermès. Il a fallu intégrer 3 différentiels pour l'animation des différentes fonctions et en particulier du satellite flottant. Une autre caractéristique, c'est l'auto-orientation du cadran du local time qui maintient sa direction tout autour de son voyage sur les 24 villes.
Arceau, le temps voyageur, marque un nouveau chapitre du temps chez Hermès. Elle propose une lecture ludique et pratique grâce à son satellite flottant qui va nous emmener autour du monde.
Yeah, they put it pretty good. So that little dial that shows the time is basically a satellite that rotates in that inner circle, and there is a little red arrow that shows which time zone you're in.
Yeah, that's I think is extremely wild. I love that. We have a super chat here from Patrick Philippe, 80 never calling, $10 US. Lariq, who wants to talk about that subterranean creature? I think it's already seen its coda. PS, I do love Zenith and Hermes, even though Aguinar isn't involved. And this is going to kind of get into, like, look, we're not going to talk about value retention. We're not going to talk about, you know, hey, is this a Rolex and it should be a Rolex or a Patek or whatever it is, because Rolex and Patek don't even enter into GPHG. So, you know, I will give one point out, Jonathan, for yourself, a bit of bragging rights because of, you know, of my new piece. AP does hold the most GPHG awards at 15 awards since 2001. It's the best performing brand. That's a bit of just me bragging on behalf of my watch, followed by Piaget that has 12 awards. For Voulez-Vous, Van Cleef & Arpels actually has 12 awards, and Vacheron has 11 awards. So that's kind of how the brands fare in terms of awards they've won at GPHG. Back to this watch, Jonathan, your thoughts. You've seen this watch in person.
Tan, may I interrupt you? And you know that I love a little bit head banging. You realize that this statistics is not entirely complete because Rolex and Patek are not participating.
It's okay. I'm going to take the win. I'm going to take the W here because Rolex and Patek definitely not participating into GPHG. You're absolutely right. But I'll take the AP win. I don't think AP is not on the list here for any of the winners.
I think they stopped participating as well. No, they had one. They had one. We've seen one, yes.
Yeah, no. APHG was definitely shortlisted. I think they were, you know, I think that they were one of the most nominated in the categories.
We've handled a tourbillon something from AP at the GPHG exhibition.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Everybody knows I'm a bigger Patek fanboy anyways, but I just wanted to throw in that little dig that AP did. Is the most winningest brand of GPHG of all time. So back to this watch, you've seen Arceau Le Temps Voyageur. Why don't you tell us a bit about your thoughts when you saw it in person? We saw the video. Obviously, seeing the watch in person changes that, you know, and sometimes the perspective of it. This watch is 41 millimeters, 12.52 millimeters thick, so a bit chunkier. What do you think?
I'm playing a little bit OC, who has a talent on shitting down on a beautiful watch, no matter how nice the construction is. I can't get over most of Hermes lugs. Just look at the lugs on the bottom. Those are traditional short lugs. I can't get over those long lugs on the top. They're doing this with the Arceau forever, and it just bothers me. I can't love this watch no matter how beautifully that world time function is integrated and how unique that is.
Well, you're not the only one. There's other folks in the chat. Russell996 says, can't get past the lugs either. Voulez-Vous, who I know is a fan of Hermes, says the lugs are a distraction. And yeah, look, like I don't think any watch is ever perfect. You weren't allowed to actually put this on the wrist, so we may reserve judgment until you put pieces on the wrist to see how it actually looks.
Yeah, but a friend of mine, he works for Hermes watches, and I have the occasion to put those on. Doesn't make them any better.
Doesn't make them any better.
It doesn't overhang that I'll give Hermes, but it's just odd.
Looking at the brand itself, right? Hermes is traditionally, it's an atelier of obviously fine, haute couture. They make a lot of, and they make a lot of things, right? They're very famous for their Birkin bags, famous for their men's ties, leather goods, and whatnot. Some folks may, this is a pretty expensive piece. I mean, you're talking 26, I think it was 26,000 Swiss francs from what I see. I should pull it up. 26,850 Swiss francs. Who's the buyer for this kind of a watch?
Well, they recently cut down the independent ADs, so most of the Hermes watches are not now sold in the boutiques. That can tell you that those watches are meant for the loyal Hermes clients who also buy their fashion items and handbags and other leather accessories. So Hermes is now going back to boutique only. So that is their client. I think those watches, I've seen them a lot in France. I've also seen the basic models a lot on French women. I think they have an incredible movement or an incredible line for men in the slim line with a beautiful micro rotor movement by Vacheron. And they also have a new square one, which is really masculine. So at the moment, they are gaining kudos with men. This particular watch is not for me because it is a big watch, so it should be a man's watch. But those lugs, I can't really imagine that any other man outside of France would really enjoy them.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about value retention. I'm thinking about a term called opportunity cost.
Oh,
an opportunity cost is you have 26,850 Swiss francs to spend. And yes, I agree. It's probably somebody who's very deep into collecting or buying Hermes. And I know a lot of people that Hermes is their brand of choice. They love Hermes. They build their profile with Hermes. They buy the bags. They get access to the bags and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, if you have 26,800, and this won the award for complications too, right? So, naturally speaking, it's trying to speak to watch collectors. But if a watch collector is out there looking at like, well, I've got almost 27,000 Swiss francs, is this really going to be the piece that I'm going to buy over an offering from, like you said, brands that aren't, even in here between, Patek Philippe, Rolex, and other brands that are out there. But obviously, as we saw from the video, a very unique complication, very beautiful. I'd just be hard pressed to I would agree with you. Even lugs or not, right? Like, I would be hard pressed to spend $27,000 on this piece because there's just so much out there at that price point.
It shows a little bit how dire the complication competition this year was. If you see the contestants, it is understandable that Hermes took the prize there. Because most of the watches have been in the finishing department, but not in the complications section.
I was going to say, voulez-vous, we're not going to ignore the women's complication section, which also is an Arceau Le Temps Voyageur, a women's watch that won the complication. We don't have to
that really infuriates me because just look at the Van Cleef and Arpels that we've seen previously. Why didn't they that win the ladies' complication? I know that it won another prize, but the Van Cleef and Arpels should have won the ladies' the ladies' complication section, in my opinion.
And you mentioned it's a big watch in the men's section, right? This is a 37 millimeter piece for the ladies. 12.41 millimeters thick. It's 21,000 Swiss francs, so slightly cheaper than the 27,000 Swiss francs for the men's. Beautiful blue dial. Voulez-vous, who's our Hermes, I would say Hermes fan over here, is just talking about the lugs are distracting but still beautiful as a piece. But yeah, no, it's interesting that they won the same watch basically in the men's and women's complication, which I thought was just extremely interesting. Jonathan, is there one you want to go to specifically? We're just kind of freestyling it here. We're going through the winners. I'm not really going to go through all the entrance because we have a Swiss and John show for that. What other one do you want to look at here? We got a bunch here on the screen.
I really like the Karivuti-Leinen with that beautiful Japanese dial, and again, you had to come really close.
One, eh? Yes. Is there a video for this? I don't know if there's a video. I don't think it needs a video. I don't know, there's a video. Let me pull up the video here for everybody. Let's give everybody the visual. We give value on the non-Archie stream when he's not here. So I'll give everybody the visual here. All right, this is the winner of the Arts Award, Arts and Crafts Watch Prize as the Voutilainen. I'm gonna let me know if I'm pronouncing this right. GQ. Jonathan, we're gonna look at cities here on the dial. Gonna get your take on the cities, please.
I'm not looking at cities at all.
I'm gonna look at cities. I'm gonna look at cities here. We got London, we got Moitié, we got Kemi. Let me look at these up here. Kemi, what's Kemi? I don't know what Kemi is. We've got Istanbul, which is in Turkey. We've got Dubai, Karachi in Pakistan, Dhaka in Bangladesh, Bangkok in Thailand, Hong Kong, which is your favorite city over Beijing to pick, Auckland, Anchorage. So instead of Juneau on the Hermes is Anchorage. We've got Los Angeles. Here's an interesting one, Jonathan. I'm happy. Maybe there's a Canadian collector that chose this piece or asked Voutilainen to help on this piece. For this piece, sorry, Calgary. That's in Alberta.
It is a piece unique, by the way, so that could be a hint.
I think it is. I think it's a Canadian that potentially purchased. I mean, look, there's obviously some other cities on here that Istanbul is there, and other cities that maybe. But
Tan, can you see Rio also on the previous one? Rio leaves a big gap, and that is why I spelled it a little bit more. It is just so lonely and lost there. So it is only a visual thing. I agree with Sirocco. Would have been better having Rio alone, but it's just so lonely and so sad.
Don't worry, Dis. We talked on our last stream about a Jerusalem dial Patek. I might pull it up later when Jonathan bounces, and we'll go through the Jerusalem dial Patek Philippe for you, Dis. That would probably have some. I don't know if you live in Jerusalem or near Jerusalem, but if you don't,
no, Tel Aviv.
Then.
I live in Tel Aviv.
Then you would prefer Tel Aviv on the dial than Jerusalem. But yeah, no, Calgary. I'm gonna take the win here with Calgary. And look, it may be that it's a Canadian collector that requested this piece unique. Maybe it's a Turkish collector with Istanbul.
But Tan, just look at the dial and this explosion effect with also the shifting colors, and you see those small sticks. I think it's a special kind of oyster. Combined with little gold pieces, combining then that together to have that image of that darker inner circle, and then everything explodes outside, and outside it gets a little bit more golden. It's just beautiful when you see that in real life, and probably we will never see it again because it's a piece unique. It will end up in a collection. Probably he will sell. He will wear it or not, but. That dial alone would be worth the flight to Geneva and just go to that museum. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I think that the video itself really highlighted, when you look at the picture, I think it takes away from exactly what you're describing on the dial, and that video really highlighted. So I'm really happy that GPHG has put videos up for us to see. Patrick Philippe says, I'm waiting for a world time that uses Dallas instead of Chicago. Look, Patrick, if you're looking for the Etude, Larique Etude number 2, we'll definitely, put that request in for you. We've got a special guest here, JJ's Watch Hangout. Welcome, JJ, to the stream. How you doing?
What's going on, guys? Hello, Tan the Man.
Welcome.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, JJ. Good timing because I'm about to leave.
Oh, look at this! I scared Jonathan off. He said,
No.
Well, Jonathan, you got to finish this up. At least give us some more detail on this Buddha line. I'm gonna go to the movement here for us to have a look. Talk to us. Obviously, teardrop lugs. You mentioned you're a fan of the lugs. Talk to us
Other than
about
that, the movement finishing is it's Karivuti lining with a big balance wheel. The finishing is top notch. We are missing here some inward angles. I think there is one that I can see. Could have done a little bit more, but I think that is his standard movement that we find in many other watches. So you can't say anything against Karivuti line.
No, we can't. So I'll go to the specs of this. The dial finish is a Japanese lacquer. Case material is platinum. Size is 39 millimeters. So, probably my sweet spot. Thickness of 11.3 millimeters. Manual wind, as you guys can see from the movement. Power reserve of 60 hours. This is interesting. Well, interesting and not. It beats at 18,000 vibrations per hour. Not necessarily the standard that you either see it at 21.6 or 28.8. But hey, we'll take it. Like you said, piece unique, 365,000 Swiss francs. I don't know if it says anything about the actual owner. I'll read the description for everybody. One of the greatest lacquer artists of Japan, Tetsuo Kitamura, creates works of lacquer art that stand at the pinnacle of Japanese tradition. It brings a craft that had existed for hundreds of years into the present, exemplifying the passion to preserve the soul, spirit, and identity of traditional Japanese culture as expressed in the Edo period. The superlative work engages us immediately on a physical level, and one can stand in awe at the commitment, passion, and dedication required to create these works of art. The dial shown here using the techniques of lacquering with, I'm gonna butcher the Sai Makai and Somato Zaiku takes several months of work to complete. The raw materials for its creation are kinpun, gold dust. I'm not gonna read the Japanese piece, I'm just gonna read the English. Gold leaf, shell of great green turban. That's interesting, I don't know what that is. An abalone shell from New Zealand. The symbiosis of Japanese tradition with Swiss haute horlogerie creations of Karivuti line represents an all-embracing mechanical and visual work of art that unites the East and West in perfect harmony. So, yeah, like this is, it's breathtaking, Jonathan. I don't know if you had any final points to kind of talk about on it.
I have one watch which was really dear to my heart, and I would like to ask you to pull up the Ferdinand Bell 2.
Was this the winner? I think there was a Ferdinand Bell 2 that won. I just want to make sure it's the winner.
Yeah, I think it won mechanical exception.
Maybe I passed it. Matte edition, Trio Trider. Here we go.
Here it is in the middle.
You want me to can I play the video for everybody first? Because I think the videos have been
can.
helping. All right, let's play the video. All right, that is the video for the Ferdinand Bertude mechanical exception watch prize. So, Jonathan, why don't you give us a bit of info on this piece?
So, Tanzil, I know that you're a fan of Phoenix brands, and Ferdinand Bell 2 certainly is one.
You know, it's funny. I've been looking up. I tried to get JJ to pull it up on his show, but he didn't. I think an American would pronounce it Leroy, but I think it's Leroy. It's a French brand. I was reading about it the other day. You and I can talk about this on a different show. We'll get into Ferdinand Berthoud, but I don't know if Leroy is a Phoenix brand, if it's an actual brand that's existed since 1775. We can go through that later, but talk to us about the Ferdinand Berthoud watch.
And just welcome Saad, who joined the panel. Hi, Saad.
The General.
Thank you so much for inviting this on the panel. Hello, JJ the Great. Hello, Jonathan the Scientist, and Tan the Man.
Hello, Saad the General.
Good evening. Good evening. Jonathan's he's educating us on some GPHG winners.
Which brand is this, bro? Never heard of this.
Ferdinand Berthoud. Well, Ferdinand Berthoud was back in the day among the people who built marine chronometers. Ferdinand Berthoud is not known being an inventor, but he is known as an improver. So he improved what others developed. He took it up and he improved significantly what they created. And Ferdinand Berthoud, the brand was dormant. What I really like is we are talking here about a 270,000 Swiss franc watch with super high complication, with a movement finishing that is top notch, and that is Ferdinand Berthoud belongs to a small company that nobody really has on the radar of us watch collectors, which is named Chopard. Chopard is a family-owned business.
Yeah. Higgins,
Yeah.
I have a question from you.
Yes.
This I wanted to ask you from a long time about the small companies, the small brands. Don't you get a little bit nervous if something wrong happens to the brand and it is already dysfunctional? If the brand is not functioning anymore, like with the Rolex, the parts are in abundance and the company is really strong. But the smaller companies have these issues. What if the companies go bankrupt, or if it's in no more in existence? Then how do you service it? What do you do about these things?
I think that is a fair point. I'm not sure if Ferdinand Berthoud will survive forever, so it may be an issue. I can tell you that just recently we have a new generation of highly skilled watchmakers, and not only the skills of the watchmaker has improved significantly, but the technology has improved significantly. So to be honest, Saad, even if Ferdinand Berthoud goes bankrupt and I need some parts in 20 years, I'm pretty sure I will be able to ring up a guy like Recep Recepi, and he will know somebody who can reproduce a part or who can service those watches. The advancements in technology are stunning, and the development of really skilled watchmakers is at a peak at the moment, in my opinion.
You're very right about this. You can get
one sec. One sec. Sorry to interrupt. We have a super chat from JBJB. We appreciate all of our European guests and fans in the Peanut Gallery that are supporting ArchieLuxury in the European time zone, European hours, €5.99. Now the panel is complete. Excellent panelists. Thank you, gentlemen. Just wanted to read that out for you guys. Now you can continue.
Thank you very much, JB.
Thanks, JB.
Saad, may I counter your point? You know well that the bubble bag watches, Rolex doesn't supply parts anymore, or for the old Rolex Princess. So it could happen even with a company like Rolex.
Yeah, 100% correct. Good point.
Todd, I guess you and I are going to talk a little bit in a few minutes after we're done. Jonathan just wants to go through this watch, and then you and I will go through the rabbit hole of a couple of unique Rolexes, and we can talk about servicing on them, because I've been kind of stumped on that topic too. Jonathan, so you mentioned it's a $200 and some $1,000 watch on here. You mentioned, obviously very high complications. As a total package, what do you love about this watch? What do you hate about this watch? Why don't you give us your full 20
because
360?
It combines two things that are really difficult to be done. It has a tourbillon, and it has a fusée chaîne, which is one of my favorite things, because not many companies are even able to do that. Fusée chaîne is a tool to delete the different torques that a mainspring provides. So at the beginning, when the mainspring is fully wound, it delivers a high amount of torque, which sometimes is too high. And at the end, when it's almost running down, the torque is less. And the fusée chaîne is a bloody expensive and complicated way of delivering a constant force out of a mainspring. This is something that the old marine chronometers had, and it was invented for them. And only a couple of companies are able to make this into a wristwatch. And in my opinion, the fusée chaîne from Ferdinand Berthoud is just gorgeous. The most pretty fusée chaîne, much nicer than the Lange one, in my opinion.
Ooh, you guys heard it here first. He's picking Ferdinand Berthoud over the Lange brand. Well, it's the Lange one, I'll say, not the Lange brand, the Lange one. JJ, I don't know if you're still there. You're on mute, but we'd love to hear your thoughts, whether this is a good weekend watch, whether this is a good, when I mean weekend, if you're a weekend in New York City, you're going to a Michelin star restaurant. You know, we're not going to the laundromat. We're not going to get a slice in Brooklyn. JJ, if you're there, unmute yourself. If you're not, oh no, he's there. JJ, talk to us. Tell us about this. What do you think of this piece?
Oh, it's a beautiful piece. I mean, you can't deny it. Ferdinand Berthoud is one of the best watchmakers alive, right? I mean, this is really Jonathan's wheelhouse. This is not something that like I delve into much, because this is a watch that I would never be able to collect. I'm more into brands that are attainable for me. I think Jonathan is more aspirational, looking at like the best of the best.
I think that's part of it too, JJ, is you know, when you made the topic on your channel, and guys, if you don't know JJ, check out his live streams. He does many live streams, you know, famously known on the Sunday Funday, JJ's Watch Hangout. He did a topic recently around the best weekend watch, and his panelists were talking about, like, you know, what do they do on the weekend? Like Birminghard's like, well, there's never anything I really do on the weekend that's gonna, you know, I'm not gonna really want to wear a gold watch. I would probably just want to use a beater because he's doing other things on the weekend. But if I'm in New York City, you know, on the weekend, I may try to go to a nice restaurant, you know, maybe dress up a bit. So I would say that a piece like this could be a great, you know, weekend watch in that sense, because you may want to wear something special on the weekend. It's not something you wear day to day. So overall, JJ, like, you know, if you were to, you know, let's say you did have the funds and you pulled the trigger on this piece, like, would this be something you're looking at? Would you be kind of, you know, staying in Paddock? Would you be, you know, going into Lange, or would you be going into more obscure stuff like this, like if you had the means to actually do it?
If I'm going into high end and, like, you know, staying away from like the majors like Patek and Lange and Vacheron, etc., like I would probably lean more towards FP Journe, MB&F, maybe Grubel, like somewhere in that wheelhouse. The design just is more what I'd be interested in. But I could definitely appreciate the beauty and the craftsmanship that goes into, you know, brands like this, for sure. And as far as the topic last night, like on the surface, I guess it seemed kind of like basic, you know, like, oh, best weekend watch. But I did that on purpose to create conversation, because, like you said, there are so many different things that so many different people do. You know what I mean? Like, someone might be grocery shopping, someone might be going to a play. Like, there's so many different things people do in their free time. I think that opened it up to a wide variety of watches. I missed the part where you said you wanted me to pull up a certain watch. I must have missed that. But,
No. I don't think it was that. Jonathan's pulling something up. Ferdinand Berthoud, the chain and fusée. So Jonathan, you know, feel free to take the wheel.
Yeah, and I just wanted to show you the beauty of the fusée chaîne from Berthoud, which is just gorgeous. JJ, just allow me one little remark. You and I, we share the love for Gröbel Forsey. The price of 270,000 for this Ferdinand Berthoud tourbillon fusée chaîne is the entry level of Gröbel Forsey.
No, yeah, I totally understand that. That is a way aspirational Right.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
the chain and fusee watch that I remember the most. Sorry, I don't have the elegant speech of Jonathan, but I really like the Zenith. What was the name of the Zenith one? Now it's slipping my mind. Are you familiar with the Zenith chain and fusee? It looks like
yes, that is
Apple.
gorgeous as well. Yes.
Yeah.
See, JJ, you may not be a native French speaker. French is actually my second language. But the beautiful Voulez-Vous is super chatting $4.99 for you to read something in the Brooklyn accent. So you can read this for her, please, and thank you.
Oh, goodness. Voulez-Vous, why do you do this to me? Let's see. What does she say here? Voulez-Vous, $5. JJ, please read. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster, a real gangster ass. JJ plays his cards right. Fancy wancy watches only for JJ. Thank you, Voulez-Vous.
Thank you, Voulez-Vous. Jonathan, were you showing? You just showing the video just to show the chain fusee?
Yeah, I can. I've just skipped to the Zenith because there the fusee chain is visible. 1 second, let me pull up the.
Let me ask you a question from Higgins. The chain has tendency to stretch over time. So how durable is this then, the gears?
The chain is there is no knowledge at the moment that it really stretches. The chain is very small, but can pull 2 kilograms of force. So it is quite new because Lange was the first one, 1994, if I remember correctly, introducing fusee chain for wristwatches. And so far, I haven't heard that there are issues with stretching. Actually, it's not a big deal because it can be longer and the effect will still be there. So it's not that the watch is not working anymore if the chain stretches for a millimeter or 2.
Yeah. I like Jay Sykes' comment. He says, Mike the Snake can change the chain on this watch. It's just like changing it on the Ducati.
You can see the fusee winding down and on the mainspring barrel. Yeah, and JJ just mentioned that beautiful Zenith fusee chain. I'm not sure if it was really a commercial project or if it was a piece unique. I've became aware of it. It's beautiful, but I'm not sure if it was really a commercial watch. JJ, do you know that?
I'm not positive myself. I don't believe it was a piece unique. I could be mistaken though. I think they do sell, because I do remember seeing one for sale on like David SW or something. So
okay,
I'm gonna say I don't think it was a piece unique. Maybe it was they made a model after a piece unique, like and it was a different.
I don't know. So as far as I know, the only companies who are able to make a fusee chain are Zenith, Lange, Ferdinand Berthoud, and there is one missing. Who else does it?
Now, do you like it?
Help me.
Who else? Jonathan, if you
there is a fourth one.
You're in trouble.
Russ is in the audience. Russ will tell me the fourth one.
All I heard was Paddock, and then I stopped listening.
Nope, Paddock is not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not positive myself.
Okay.
This is where we need Marco. Maybe he knows.
Yeah, I know it as well, but I forgot. So there's a fourth company.
No worries.
I'm getting old.
It's all good, Jonathan. We appreciate obviously you sharing. And if you have other videos or stuff, I know you're trying to share a few things, so I'll pull it up.
I just want to ask Jonathan real quick. Do you really like the fusee and chain system? Like, because do you think it's the most accurate, or do you think because it's just so complex to keep constant force?
It is so difficult to make. It uses up so much space. It is just so crazy because it comes from chronometry. I don't think that a real world application really justifies the price, but it's just cool.
Okay,
I just love it.
I got some info for you. So Romain Gaultier makes one, right? The logical one.
Oh yes.
And Lange, you said, and Breguet.
Breguet is doing one, yes. Breguet, yeah.
And then there's Leroy. Leroy? I don't know how you say that one.
Okay, Leroy.
It's Leroy. It's Leroy.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about
My
earlier.
French is not the.
All good.
And we have Mr. GMT in the house. Now I can go.
Oh my God, we got the one.
The stream is in good hands.
Can I tell you
What's
something?
going on, boys?
What the hell is going on here? Seriously. I was falling. Lucky I already
Mr.
woke up
GMT.
from sleeping because I'm falling asleep, man. Lift up the energy for God's sakes.
Mr. GMT,
Fucking hell,
you know
falling
what?
asleep watching you fucking talking, Jonathan.
Looking at these watches makes the day date look cheap, man.
How are you gentlemen going? How's everything going? Awesome to see the watch talk, by the way. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. So we had a few punters in the chat saying Breguet and Grunefeld. I don't know, Jonathan, if those were one of the ones that we're missing.
Yeah, Breguet definitely makes one.
Yes, Breguet makes one. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is it Grunefeld? I thought it was Ramon.
No, I don't think Grunefeld makes one. Grunefeld makes a remontoir, but not a fusée chain.
Talk about chains here, GMT. Chains.
What's that? What's that?
We're talking about chains. Chains and fusée. Very, very high end stuff.
Listen, I leave the high end stuff to Jonathan. I keep all the low end stuff going.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Man, I was trying to get Jonathan to keep Darwin on his world time, man. Like,
nah, it's not gonna happen. It's done.
The Grunefeld 1912, is that chain and fusée or no?
So fusée chain, as far as I know, has been developed by John Harrison even for wall clocks. So I think that was the first application. But
Man,
I may
can I
be
just say
totally...
something to you? Whose idea was this to start this today? Like
I know.
this?
That was me.
You fucking rock, brother. You really do. What a great idea.
I like the time. Like, obviously, I had time this afternoon. I had the afternoon off. This is a perfect time. I started at 1:30 Eastern time, which is 6:30 in the UK, 7:30 on mainland Europe. So I thought it was, the European, fans that like to watch and do a bit of watch talk and whatnot. I thought it was a good time for everybody. Gives us a bit of a pre-show before Archie comes on with the mayhem tonight. And we got obviously a lot of great people who joined. JJ, Saad, Jonathan, Dish, who's been AFK for about 20 minutes. You can see his jacket.
Rodent number 3.
The Rodent number 3, Jin, showed up. Yeah, he was on his way somewhere, but decided to join us. We'll pull up Jonathan's piece here on the screen.
Yeah, this is a great idea. It's a great idea. Awesome to see.
What are you showing us here, Jonathan? You're scrolling.
So yeah, I just try to give you my last point before I'm leaving. Ferdinand Berthoud previously, in my opinion, were not really fortunate with their design choices for case design. So those are the old one, octagonal, which I really don't approve. So now they're making round cases with those transparent sides, and in my opinion, that's much better. It's the same movement in the octagonal. I prefer the rounded cases much more.
I would agree with you. I think the round case looks a lot better. But yeah, Jonathan, look, we really appreciate you hopping on. I know that you're going against the wife, live streaming on the ArchieLuxury channel, obviously without ArchieLuxury, but always a great time. I knew that the GPHG topic might pull you in a bit, take you down the rabbit hole with us. It was definitely something that I wanted to talk about today. So definitely appreciate. And Jonathan, do you want to plug when your show is going to be playing again for those that missed it earlier?
So the Swiss and John show will be back next Saturday, 9 o'clock in the evening, Paris time, with or without Mr. GMT. That is the big miracle. So I'll hand over all the watch knowledge.
What do you mean by, hang on, wait a minute. Whoa, back the truck up. Why did you have to mention me? At this point, it's only the John show. There's not even a Swiss involved. Why the hell are you throwing me into the mix?
That is true, but you know that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito?
Yes.
I think it's called Twins. And
yes.
You know the story where the doctor tells the twins that basically they put all the good ingredients into one twin and all the garbage to the other one. So
Wait a minute. Are you
we
trying
have
to tell me that
Swiss
I
with
remind you of Danny DeVito?
ingredients. Now he's not available, so I'm taking the little twin.
And we're
So
hoping
you're
that
trying to
Swiss.
say that I'm Danny DeVito? Is that what you're trying to say?
kind of, yes.
You got a lot more
What the
hair than
fuck,
Danny DeVito.
Jonathan?
I think he's saying
What's
you're
that?
Danny DeVito of watch knowledge, and Swiss is
Yeah.
almost
Of course, only watch knowledge.
I say you trying to invite me back onto the show? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I couldn't have been any kinder, couldn't I?
He's
Yeah, you
inviting
pretty
you on
much
with
fucked it. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, Mr.
But
GMT, you know
look,
that
if
we
I,
love
if I
you.
wake up in time, you do it too early. What time do you do it?
9 o'clock my time.
So what
I
would
think
that be?
it's 4 or 5 o'clock your time in the morning.
I mean, GMT, you have a GMT. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
Higgins,
I'll
I
figure
have
it
last question from you, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
please.
You know, I am these days very much interested in Lange and Zonet. So I was looking at the Zeitwerk, and it was inspired from a huge clock they made at some opera or something.
Yeah, in the
It was in
Dresden
a building.
Opera House. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the Zeitwerk, if you have a little bit time for us?
Thought you're just trying to get me upset. Maybe Mr. GMT can tell you better
You know
about
what?
the
Thank you
Zeitwerk.
so much for asking that question, because that's my favorite Lange.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The plates they have made, the disc, I mean, it's very complicated actually.
You know that Jonathan hates this watch.
What's the watch?
Really?
Sorry, I'll pull it up. What's the watch?
Zeitwerk. The Lange
Zeitwerk?
Zeitwerk. Mhm.
All right, let me put the Lange Zeitwerk for everybody.
It's a digital kind of a mechanical movement, but digital times.
Yeah,
Display,
I'm
yes.
familiar.
Mhm.
I'm familiar with the Zeitwerk.
It's very, very creative the way that they've done it. Very seriously.
All right, let me share my screen.
There are two
Zeitwerk,
problems
guys.
with this particular watch.
Tell us.
So here's a minute repeater, which is gorgeous, but I have a personal problem with a digital display which screams to me it's not a mechanical watch. I love mechanical watches, and I just prefer the analog displays. And the second thing has been mentioned over and over by Carson Kronos, and that is the fat guy in a T-shirt. So if you have a look at that silver bridge that you can see in the middle, and use a little bit of imagination, you will realize that it looks like a fat guy with a T-shirt.
Can I tell you something? For me to see that it's a fat guy, I've got to be completely fucking stoned.
Well, just picture Archie in the woven watches shirt and use your imagination.
It misses a second horn then.
Missing the second, yeah, it's true. Missing the second horn.
Oh, it's got them. You got the AB on the left and the AUF on the right.
Yeah. And you know that there is another watch by Recep Recepi. No, it is Čapek, the Rattrapant watch, and it just looks like a guy on a bicycle. And Swiss is calling it the bicycle watch, which is equally distracting or disappointing. Yeah, Swiss is calling that the bicycle watch.
I can see that. Yes, I can see that. Definitely.
That happened with the Zenith as well, with the chain and fusee, that model. They was calling it the owl. They were saying it looked like an owl.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah,
owl.
yeah.
That looks like an owl. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay,
All
guys.
right, guys. Appreciate
Thank you
the
very
time,
much
Jonathan.
for being on, Mr. GMT. My insult was out of line. I apologize for it. I tried to be funny. It wasn't so, but it was not meant
No,
personally.
listen. Don't worry. I can take it, but just get it ready to receive it. That's what I've got to
Oh
say.
yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to the next show when you give it to me. Come and get it. Okay,
Hey,
guys.
coming and getting it, all right.
You have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much for having me
Thank you,
on.
Higgins.
And until the next time. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Jeff.
Higgins.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.
Gute Nacht.
All right, we got the general here. So, General Saad, I'm not going to let you go this quick. You and I have been talking about some unique Rolex pieces the last couple of days. I'm going to pull up this piece, Saad. You're going to tell us a bit about this. So, JJ, when you did a two-tone show, I tried to like cheat by saying, the Rolex Tridor, because in my mind I was looking for a two-tone date, and I was like, fuck, I can't find one. And then out of nowhere, 2 days later, Saad says, hey, check this out. So Saad, take it away. Tell us about two-tone Rolex date, please.
So this is a reference number 18349. 9 stands for, of course, white gold. So this watch is actually made from white gold. I mean, the case, everything. But the central links is 18 karat yellow gold. Now it looks like a two-tone watch, and it really is, it basically looks like a date, just if you ignore the day wheel. This is, I think, only 2 watches made which was special order, which had Jubilee bracelet, a two-tone, and diamond central links. This has the mother of pearl dial, and the other one that I sent picture to Tanzil, if he remembers, has a 18 karat solid gold dial with pave diamonds.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up in a second. I just wanted to show this one first because this is super unique. Only 2 ordered. Saad, an interesting part about this piece, and I think I'm remembering it's this one. The time it took them to sell it. Can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, the problem with day dates back then, and one of the day date I bought from AD back in 2006, I believe. When I decode the serial number, it is actually made in 2005. So it is. So I asked somebody, and they said, with the day dates, it took dealers sometimes 1 year or more to sell these models. It was a very slow moving product.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I mean, like you said, people mistake this for a date just that they could get for a quarter of the price,
And JJ, the special order, especially the one with the diamond central links, at that time were much more expensive than the diamond central link watches that you get today. So this watch, I believe, must be very, very expensive at that time. It took 13 years to sell this watch. It was made in 1989, but the paper was stamped.
Is it 2007, maybe you said? I don't know if Saad's looking it up. Saad, your audio cut out there, so I don't know if that's just your audio or you just looking it up. But yeah, it took a super long time to sell this. Obviously, we see it's a two-tone white and yellow gold. Interesting on the dial too, JJ, is this is a mother of pearl dial, so it's a stone dial as well. So if I knew this during your show of what's the best two-tone, I probably would have put the AP tantalum gold watch aside and said the two-tone day just to stump you, I think, because then you probably kind of look it up and you wouldn't find it. So then either you would have called me out for showing a fake watch, but the general himself has said this is a real piece. Only 2 of them in the world. JJ, you obviously deal with a lot of dealers, like ADs and stuff. What do you think it would take to actually go to the AD and just try to get this watch?
Now,
Mr. Professor, good afternoon, good evening.
Now this would be virtually
Hello, Professor.
Hello, Professor.
Kalispera,
Go ahead, JJ,
Professor.
sorry.
You are muted. We don't hear you.
He doesn't want to talk to us, I think.
Okay.
You're on mute, Professor. You're on mute, Professor. Whenever you're ready. So I asked JJ, sorry, I'll let JJ answer. So JJ and Saad too, if you want to chime in. How difficult would this be to go to Rolex and try to get a piece like this, having, how difficult it is to get pieces itself with an AD? Kind of talk about like how difficult you guys think this would be to actually get them to make.
Oh, this would be, in my opinion, I mean, I've never tried to do anything like this, but this would be like, I would imagine this would be a nightmare. I don't see them, you would have to be like a real top tier customer in a busy store to get this.
Can you hear me now? Is it
You're
clear
good,
now?
yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
So,
Hello, everybody.
hello, well, Professor. Hope you're doing well. So
Very well, very well. I was listening piously some of the statements that were made, and I want to set the stage a little.
Are you talking
Oh,
about
the
that
professor
earlier
is
comment
right.
from Higgins?
I didn't see a comment from Higgins. Yeah, Professor, why don't you start? Like you've been listening to the show, you've been listening to some statements. We're more than happy to have you on the show, and we obviously love
Thank you.
all of the. I'll give I have a good affinity for the Professor, having gone many hours on that live stream I think it was either on New Year's. I think it was on New Year's, where he sat in the
Yes,
chair
I
for
think
about
15
12
hours.
hours, 15 hours. So,
Ted, I
Professor,
actually have to hop off, so
no worries, JJ. I'll
because I
see you
gotta
probably a
drive.
little later. Yeah, no
All
worries,
right.
man.
See
Take
you
care.
later.
Thank you, JJ. Take care.
See you, JJ.
All right, Professor. Professor, the stage is yours. Please enlighten us.
Thank you, thank you. I first of all, I want to say to send my greetings to all your esteemed panelists, as well as those who left. And I just wanted to say, make a few remarks, whilst my kids are going around going crazy. So one thing is that it's very good to see, first of all, the young generation joining in the ranks of enthusiasts and aficionados, and I very much appreciate. I have seen you, Tanzine, discussing some of these manufacturers, which is excellent, and it's nice to see the 30-year-olds and possibly the 20-year-olds getting into the watch collecting business. As you know, just to put things in context, I've been involved in this world since the early 2000s, and later on, I was involved in this business from the finance perspective. So, Saad posed a question concerning the viability of some of these brands, and the reason. There are two things that I wanted to share. One is that the Swiss watch industry loves what has been going on, which is to see huge enthusiasm and demand. And of course, that demand fuels more innovation and creativity. However, the watchmaking business as a business, not as collecting, is a very different world than what you see in the shops. And Saad made a point about the independents, which do often enough have financial problems. And the case in point is one referenced Chopard. And Chopard is an interesting case because it is owned. The Chopard family owned the manufacturer up until the mid 60s, and then they had to sell it, primarily because they didn't have any heirs, and it was sold to a German businessman who then continued that history. But the watchmaking business in the independents is not an often break-even business. So it's nice to mythicize Monsieur, this and Monsieur that and all of that. But even for AP, AP is a one-trick pony. And had it not been for the recent kind of fever in watches, AP would still have issues. Somebody like AP would still have issues. So, I mean, luckily they have been selling their a lot of their production to Richard Mille, and he has benefited greatly, and vice versa. But it's not easy, what I'm trying to say. And Saad was making a reference. Somebody like Rolex has a far greater chance to survive in 100 years than any of these brands, including Patek, believe it or not. And the biggest, and I don't agree that there are numerous watchmakers in the watch industry. I know the Swiss watch industry a little bit more than what many of you might think. Does not have a lot of watchmakers. It is thinning out. So it's not easy. And remember what has happened for the line of watches sold between the $1,000 mark all the way to $4,000 is completely wiped out. There is no Swiss watch industry in that segment. It has been wiped out by the Apple Watch. And the biggest unknown because we're all oldies in this world, is what happens to the new generation in the coming 20 years.
Can you speak for yourself? I'm not that old, man.
But you said you're 50 years old, so you are old.
Hey.
In spirit, we're all young. In spirit, we're all young, GMT.
We are. I'm just trying to make a joke. I'm just trying to make a joke.
Yeah. So what's happening is, this is the big unknown, what happens to the watch industry. And I hope that it continues, but it's not as clear as we think it is. And I will share, recently there was a article in the Financial Times a couple of weeks ago. I'll share it with some of you. This was the biggest question mark about the future of the industry, is what happens to the new generation coming online. I mean, everything is going to be somehow dictated by AI.
And Professor, can I just interrupt you real quick, because there is a super chat that talks about that. So just the first one here from Lightball, £4.49. This is for you, Saad, if you're still around. Tan, please remove free will from General Saad. He must be forced to come on, as he ignores every request for his presence. So Saad, that's the people talking. And this one for you, Professor, to continue the conversation. Swinging Kangaroo, $4.99 US. Felt good when folks saying it is good to see younger generation coming into this hobby. I was like, hell yeah. Any suggestions for super quartz from Grand Seiko? Any suggestions for super quartz from Grand Seiko?
For me, for Grand Seiko, unfortunately, I know I have a lot of respect and admiration for Seiko, but I also think that they should just quit and make cars and forget about selling expensive mechanical watches.
Yeah, I think his question was around super quartz, and that could be in reference to spring drive. Like they're famous for their spring drive, in the original Snowflake. They've now done the, I don't think it's spring drive, but in the white birch and the black birch. So they're very well known for their dial making these days. But definitely, I mean, they're the, with the Seiko Quartz Astron, when the first quartz watch first came out. Interestingly enough, the first quartz watch in the Seiko Astron was a gold piece. It was not marketed as a cheap piece. It was actually marketed as a gold piece, the Quartz Astron. So yeah, I mean, Swinging Kangaroo, the catalog for Seiko, I think if you're meaning in the spring drive, there's obviously a real plethora of watches. My favorite spring drive is still the Snowflake. I think it's a pretty like generic response in that I'm not a huge Grand Seiko fan myself, but yeah, look, I mean, Professor, this may also be, kind of talking about what you're, taking it down the line of your discussion around the younger generation and, younger collectors looking at not just maybe, Rolex or even this high-end stuff, but even, an interest in technology of like the spring drive technology where, he's specifically asking about, hey, what do you guys think of a super quartz or a spring drive technology that the younger generation might find cool and interesting. So I'll let you continue, Professor. Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all.
Sorry, before you continue, I'm going to head off. I've got to go to work, but thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the watch talk. Keep up the awesome work, and we'll talk soon. Stay sexy, guys.
Love you, GMT. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, yeah, look, I just, this is really the point. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see these brands, Lange, Mange, Fange, and all of that. But the ones that rule, the one that rules and will continue to rule, and fortunately or unfortunately, is going to be Rolex, whether they like it or not. And the top 5 brands after Rolex have the same amount of revenue as Rolex. So if Rolex decides to sell underwear and a watch that go together, everybody else will sell the underwear.
Professor, sorry for saying this, but this was said same for Nokia. when in the 90s Nokia was dominating the mobile market, and then even till early 2000s, they were known as to be something indestructible or irreplaceable. So, in the corporate market, anything can happen. You know that well, right?
No, of course, and they're all benefiting. I mean, at the end of the day, as I always say, they're selling watches, they're not curing cancer. They're not helping humanity become healthier or better. It's just a
Yeah,
hobby, and
yeah.
you can now watch your time. I never wear my watch to see what time it is. It is ridiculous to expect that, and that's why the industry itself will have a challenge in the future. But having said this, you are raising an important point, Saad, concerning the viability of these independents. Fine, and even Rolex, is not vertically integrated as they say. It's not 100%. They still are not 100% vertically integrated. But having said this, all the others who claim they are even less integrated than what they claim to be. So, the Swiss are very cunning in selling you vegetables for something else. All of us, including myself, right? So, let's be realistic that here we're not trying to find a discovery in nuclear physics. I mean, it's just some engineering that goes on, and the Swiss have excelled in it. And of course, the Germans, Lange being German, not to forget the positive contribution of the Germans and Lange. I think it's a fantastic brand, no doubt.
Professor, I have a question. Before 10 discusses this Grand Seiko, define asset class, and can Rolex, or is Rolex an asset class? Does it come in asset class?
Rolex as an asset class. Well, watches are considered an asset class, right? But what is an asset? And yes, like wine, like a painting, like everything else, it is an asset. But assets go up and down. So people are realizing, those who bought 2 years ago the asset, it has a tendency to dive like everything else. And it's not as liquid as people think. What is the only watch that is as liquid as anything else? Probably it's Rolex. Everything else is less liquid. I mean, those who bought Richard Mille's at a high, what is the liquidity factor and their ability to sell? The stock market, buying a stock is the most liquid asset you have, right? Watches is not as liquid as people think, but it is an asset class, and it will continue to be an asset class, right?
So sorry, just to get into Swinging Kangaroo's question. So he's a big supporter of the channel. So he'd asked about super quartz or very accurate quartz pieces. I pulled up the 9F quartz movements for Grand Seiko. Not a ton, to be totally honest with you, Swinging Kangaroo, that really appealed to me. It's either very plain Jane. The piece I had originally up, I think it's a lady's watch. It's 34 mil. Beautiful dial. I mean, this is really what I feel is Grand Seiko's forte is the dial and what Curly calls the Sirocco polishing. To me, it's not the greatest thing in the world, the polishing. The dial is what I'd be paying for. So you really gotta be someone who's really seeking these kind of pieces specifically. But I would say that the most popular in their catalog is today at least the I guess the successor to the Snowflake, which is the white birch and black birch. They do have two new models that came out on Hodinkee a few days ago. The 9S models, those are, I believe, one's a high beat, one isn't. That they talk about in Grand Seiko, the studio. A lot of the themes of their dials are based on the environment and around the actual studio. And those pieces, let me see if I can pull it up, actually, the Hodinkee article. But they're based on the environment that's around them. Here we go. I got it here. Where these two watches, one's a high B on the left, one's a traditional mechanical on the right. And the dial on the left symbolizes the mountain that's near the. Well, both of them are symbolisms of the mountain, but the dials represent on the left the clouds atop the mountain, and on the right it's the sky as you would see it from the peak of the mountain. So these are really the themes you'll see on a lot of Grand Seikos is on the dials. It'll be centered around the environment and just scenery around the studio. So that's where you're really going to really pay the dollars, in my opinion, on these pieces. But yeah, guys, like, as Professor was talking about the Swiss watch industry and the longevity of Rolex in terms of how it's set up compared to other manufacturers. AP, I think, was one of them he mentioned. Patek Philippe, another.
Patek doesn't have a problem of viability. They will sell, pancakes and put a clock.
Here's the thing, though, the Professor. If you're talking about Patek itself, right? Like they moved away from steel on the Nautilus because Thierry Stern was concerned about the market's craze for steel pieces, and he created the 5811, which is a white gold precious metal piece, because he believes his brand, and he used this as a quote, that he didn't want to become IWC, who went down the steel route and could never come back. He believes his brand is based in precious metals, with the majority of the catalog being what collectors coin dress watches, and those are not necessarily popular. So even the viability of the Patek Philippe, not necessarily, they're more, we want to cater to what we want to do as our brands, our history, versus necessarily what every collector or every other brand like a Rolex or an AP out there would want to do. So even them, I believe, there is some risk in terms of the longevity, because, when I talk to new collectors, as you were describing, and I show them Patek Philippe's, and I'm a big Patek fan, as everyone knows, and they're like, well, why are you into these old man watches or these grandpa watches? They can't relate to any of the modern catalog. So, I think it's a fair point that you made in terms of the longevity and the way the Swiss industry works. I think younger collectors, and part of why I do these streams, Professor, is really to take a perspective of like, and look, I've been collecting since about 2008. I'm actually 41, so I'm very flattered that you would think I'm in my 30s or my 20s.
Very good. You survived.
Yeah, I survived, and I started collecting in around 2008. And as I kind of look at new collectors, and when they come on YouTube, it's always about like, hey, every stream is about Rolex,
Yes.
Daytona, Cermet, Pepsi. Like it's a lot of groupthink that constantly gets.
Oh,
perpetuated.
certainly. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Certainly, and I think the Archieverse is prone to that. Well, naturally, because both Paul and Bear and yourself and others are into Rolex. No doubt. I think this is good. And somebody like Higgins is into Lange, and that brings good balance. And you mentioned earlier about AP and all of that. And I think it's excellent. I think we just, the comment to be made is, even for Thierry Stern, I think had it not been for the success, which they did not predict on the Nautilus, Patek would not have been known today as much as they are. Yes, they make good watches. I think you pay a lot of money for complications for Pateks, whilst in other brands you pay less. You get less money from Patek. The complication improves once you go to the grand complications, but then you pay top dollars. But I think Thierry has an identity crisis, and Patek has an identity crisis. The success of the Nautilus has been what defines Patek Philippe. I know it's not nice. Maybe people don't want to hear this, but had it not been for the dancers, the hoopla people, and the singers in the US having all these bling watches and Nautilus and Aquanauts, nobody would have as much taken notice. I'm saying as much taken notice of Patek, because there were Patek and have been Patek collectors for a very long time. Unfortunately,
I think we lost Saad there. So hopefully Saad will hop back on. But continue, Professor.
yeah. So I think that Nautilus and Aquanaut did play a role in successfully elevating Patek as ostensibly the most hyped brand. When you have a 5711 that retails for what, 30, 35?
Yeah, I think it's like 35 now. I think it's gotten a bit higher than 30.
And in the gray market used to be what, 200,000?
Yeah, so Mobster writes here, I don't know, Nautilus wasn't that popular in 2017. I actually had a Nautilus blue dial in 2016.
I had several.
Yeah, and I purchased it in 2016. The retail price was 24, and I purchased it slightly over retail at 26.5 from David SW. But yeah, look, I you're right. They were going for like 200. They've come down obviously a lot from the 200 mark. And look, in my opinion, it's not a $200,000 watch. It's not a $100,000 watch. It's
not.
Basic.
It's not even 35.
I think when you get into that price range, you look at the comparability of it too, because that's a similar price to the Royal Oak. Look, it can be justified, I think, at retail. I mean, there's an argument to be made there, but when you look at $100,000 or $200,000, like the way I see it is, and I used this term earlier, was opportunity cost. Professor was like, what is your opportunity cost if you have $100,000? If I'm a Patek collector or Patek buyer, I'm looking at like perpetual calendar. I'm looking at a grand complication, which the brand, the house is known for, is the grand complications, right? So
I agree.
And that's where I think that you're on the right path in the discussion where a lot of this has been driven by, and you're right. I talked about this actually in the last stream, was how even in the music industry and Hop on Smash, if you're listening, he works in the music industry, and him and I had this conversation, was over time, in the 90s, like you said, artists were talking about Rolex. In the 2000s, it was Jay-Z talking about the AP. And then in the 2010s and onwards, Migos was talking about Patek. And a lot of that has been, you see it in popular culture, a lot where people are wearing Nautilus all the time. And it becomes a sought after piece because of that connotation, as opposed to, really why someone would buy a Patek Philippe, right? But look, Professor, if you think about it, this is the young generation we're talking about, is that the young collector is logging onto YouTube, maybe not even YouTube, because that might even be too old for them. They're on TikTok, and they're seeing, they're seeing Nautilus, they're seeing Aquanaut, they're seeing Ceramic Daytona, and it's just being perpetuated groupthink all over social media. So like
exactly.
In your mind, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? How would you want to change it? Well, where do you think this is going for the young collector?
I think it's what also Saad said previously, is it an asset class? And, in some ways it is. People look at they get into the collecting business because they view this as an investment. So, they buy into the Aquanaut, they pay 170 or 120 or 130, and they say, I have a wonderful watch, the value doesn't go down. Somebody made a comment in the chat that, look at so many Rolexes, there are 500 of them. How liquid is it? Well, go and collect Breguets and Langes and APs and see if a lot of them go out, what happens. I mean, again, I'm exaggerating a little bit because this is not like a round table where we sit down and we're chatting a little bit off the cuff. So all I wanted to say that it is an asset class, yes, more so than before, more so than 5 or 10 years ago. And it most likely seems that it will continue to be the case. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everything goes up as it went down at the same rate. So it took 8 months for watches to go down. So in the next 8 months, everything will go up. That won't happen.
Professor,
it will take time. Yeah,
and you can see here in the screen that I'm showing. This is an Instagram account called Celeb Watch Spotter, and you can see a lot of a trend here between most of these watches that are on the screen. You see Nautilus, you see Daytona, You see Nautilus again. You see AP. Seems like the celebs really like the Royal Oak chronograph.
They all compete. Who has the blinkiest? 1 million, 3 million, 4 million. The $500,000 for them is rubbish. It's garbage. Forget the Pepsi. I mean, the Pepsi has deteriorated to garbage watch for these guys, right? That's a different class. The purpose of the watch for them is to demonstrate their wealth, but also their ability to have a unique piece. They don't understand that half of the times they destroy the watch because they bling it and they put diamonds, and that takes away its originality and its provenance. But this is a different world, and it's that world that Thierry Stern thought he can quieten down. But of course, it's not possible for Patek. Patek will continue to be a very wanted brand because of Nautilus and Aquanaut. Regardless of what happens, and if they produce the 5711 in orange and they sell a lemon with it, it will go for $500,000.
Yeah,
and if they put a kofta on top of it and hummus for this, and then they put a Royal Oak, they're gonna sell it, man, because we live in a very different world.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You see, just to see these, you just see such a pattern, right? Royal Oak, chronograph. Obviously, there's some higher end Royal Oaks here. You see Nautilus a few times. You see, here's a World Times. This is, I think, Steve Harvey on the left here with a World Time. Ed Sheeran's obviously a well-known watch collector. Alonga over here. And I think this is a famous soccer coach on the left. I forget his name. I'm not a huge
Guardiola was it?
Yeah, he used to coach Manchester City. Yeah, Guardiola. Yes, that's right, Pep Guardiola.
Yeah. They're all into that. I mean, some of the watches that we talk about, these guys. For instance, this is the Platinum Patek, right? The perpetual calendar. If I see it correctly.
Shad will know who this is. This is Shah Rukh Khan, a famous Bollywood actor.
Yeah. Platinum 116506. Yeah.
Ed Sheeran with a World Time. Give him respect on this World Time. I believe this World Time has Edinburgh. Yeah, it has Edinburgh right here, right at the top. So
I appreciate, for instance, this watch. For the Patek line, I appreciate the non-hyped. If there is such a thing as a non-hyped Patek, but there is. Yes, I appreciate that. But then also he has this guy who plays the guitar has several Aquanauts, several Nautiluses. I mean, Tanzil, you've been to the boutique in Geneva, right?
That's right, I have.
Okay, I've been there several times. They're not going to sell you a Nautilus. Now you need to have a tab, which is not 200,000.
You want to know something funny, Professor? I reached out to my AD for a 5212 weekly calendar today because Bear was like, just call the AD and get on the list. I call the AD, and there's like, oh yeah, that watch is sold out for a few years. I'm like, come on. Like, this is a Calatrava weekly calendar. Like, I know it's in steel, but like, come on, guys. Like, don't give me the run around here, because like, I'm sure. Call me when you actually get one, because I'm ready to buy. But yeah, you're not wrong here. And the reason why I'm showing these pages is just to highlight for the punters really like popular culture, the influencers, right? Like, what are they wearing? Because as insular as the watch collecting community is, it's interesting to see. This is a famous cricketer over here on the right who's wearing a Cermet. You got Serena Williams here with an AP.
Yeah, now we're going back to Earth, because before we were stratospheric watches.
We got Lionel Messi, the World Cup winner, wearing a steel, the Bear Clooney, a steel on an oyster. I would have preferred the Jubilee, but Messi seems to like the steel on an oyster.
No, but I'm sure he has 50 other watches.
I'm sure he does.
That day I just showed him with this watch, but he has another 50, and no, it's fine. It's fine. Look, the Swiss are having a party. They're saying, I can't believe this is true. Honey, I shot the kids.
Saad,
The
the enemy of your team, Virat Kohli, is wearing look. I'm gonna. This is respect here. Platinum Patek Philippe Grand Complication. This is a perpetual calendar chronograph,
Right.
5270 platinum. Very nice watch. I know obviously it's not probably your favorite, but I can respect that.
So,
So
Professor,
anyway,
I have an investment question again from you. Let's suppose you have spare $50,000 with you, or if you, I'll give you two scenarios. One is you have $50,000 spare, and you have the opportunity to get any Rolex watch at retail, or other option is to buy gold for the same amount. So, what will you do, especially in these times when you know
before
the
you answer that, Professor, sorry, Saad, before you answer that, we do have a
Sure.
paid super chat here from Trading Profits. This is for the Professor, £4.49. Trading Profits. I can tell as a young banker that El Professor is talking from wisdom and has probably seen real financial statements of public/private watch companies. Thank you, Trading Profits.
Okay. Well, Saad knows a little bit what I do. But anyway, thank you for the comment. So I've seen a few. More the private than the public statements. Anyway, it is a good time. It's the golden age of Swiss watchmaking. This is the best of the best. It's like, Saad, the golden age of pistol making. This is the time when a lot of innovations are happening in that world.
Yeah.
Also in the Swiss watch industry, this is the heyday. This is really the golden age of the Swiss watch industry. They're producing massive amounts of innovations. There are a lot of independents, small, big, and so forth. Sorry. So you had a question. So gold, 50,000 cash to buy watch, Rolex, or to buy gold.
Yeah, and you're getting the watch at retail. Any good watch that you want from Rolex at retail. I'm talking about asset class, about appreciation in future and sustainability of value these days, especially.
Okay. So the big caveat people like to use is, I am not going to give you investment advice. Okay. So I'm going to violate that caveat and say, hell no, I'm going to give you investment advice, right? I'm going to be a contrarian. So I don't care. I would buy the rarest date I can get my hands on at retail.
I'm ready to pull it up here. Maybe not a retail, Professor. I'm going to pull it up here. The rarest size.
50,000. Saad, your AD, I know you know. If I go to not my AD, but if I go to the manufacturer, I will ask for the certain dials that you know best. I'm not the expert. You are the expert. But today, if I had 50,000, I'll just go there and say, give me the Eisenkieser, as of today, from Rolex. Right? It's 50,000. That's the retail for that, rather than gold. Why I say no for gold? If we are, and this is the answer, if we are in the worst inflation crisis the world is experiencing, and gold hasn't moved up, for sure gold is not going to move up. It's not going to go to 3,000 or 4,000. So all these guys selling the idea of gold as an asset class, it is as bad as platinum in the 2000s. When the catalytic converter went from platinum to palladium, platinum crashed. Today, platinum is at 900, right, per ounce. And it doesn't seem to be moving. It goes from 7 to 8 to 9, right? And that's about it. In the worst inflation crisis the world has seen for 40 years, and gold has not gone above $2,000 per ounce, right? So there is fundamentally something telling us that gold is not going to move much. It could go to 2,000, but you made what, 10%? Whereas if you say theoretically the Eisenkieser, It's a difficult watch to get. You need to be a VIP to get it. It's more difficult to get that one than the platinum or the other ones. The Meteorite Daytona is easier to get. The white gold. I know for many it's difficult. You can get it. The Eisenkisel is very difficult, more difficult to get. So I would go and put my money there rather than buying gold.
I see. Right.
That's my answer. Now, if you ask me, would you buy Bitcoin or buy Rolex? I would say it depends. Had you put Bitcoin at 40,000 and 30,000, probably the trade would have favored you had you bought the Rolex. And of course, we can only say this if Bitcoin goes up to 40, which it will eventually, not now, but it will. Then you will say, oh, okay, I'm breaking even. But between gold and rare day date, I'll go for rare day date anytime. Of course, this is an individual. If you are a country, I'm not going to tell you go and buy all the Rolex day dates. I mean, you cannot.
So, Professor,
I mean, one country actually has bought all the Rolex platinum Daytonas with the Arabic numerals, and that's one country that wanted to. You and I know this, and they did it because they wanted to gift it. So they collected everything that existed outside in the world. But this is one kind of decision, right?
So, Professor, I don't want to tell people what you exactly do, but I can just give a hint that you have been working in the top most institutions in the world, financial institutions, and you have also helped some countries in their to get their financial conditions better. So a person of your stature, they normally don't like bitcoins and things which doesn't have proper foundation. So how do you support Bitcoin?
Okay, it's like telling Bitcoin, the crypto world had a very difficult last few months, especially because one individual who was very well educated, so education doesn't mean a lot, especially when you go to an Ivy League. I always tell people when they say, oh, he went to MIT, he went to Harvard and all that, they must be brilliant. And I say, no, actually the biggest scandals were created by people who went to these institutions. Case in point is Enron. The CEO of Enron went to Harvard, and Mr. Sam Fried, Mr. FTX, I call him, he went to MIT. So you can go to great schools and end up being a swindler and a corrupt and embezzling and all of that guy. So the issue is that this is young versus old generation. And the big fight, the big battle is between the old system of central banks and the new system of exchange. That battle is not over. And I think the central banks found it very unpredictable, the whole world about crypto and Bitcoin and so forth. I'm not a proponent of the entire crypto space. I'm very, very selective, but I think there is something going on which is quite evolutionary and innovative. It remains to be seen if it's wiped out. I'm of the view that it will not, but I could be wrong, right? Because I am a so-called professor, it doesn't mean that I don't get it wrong. People are humans and they often get it wrong.
Now we talk about the watch that we have in the photograph.
Yes, I've been waiting patiently to show this.
Nice.
I've been waiting. We're talking about gold, right? So Saad is going to educate us on this watch.
Educate us.
Special.
So I had one of these, but with different dial. Of course, this dial is very, very special. The reference number of this watch is not so special. I think it should be 18338 because The 338 means that it had diamonds on the lugs. The 338 also had the option of having diamond bezel. However, if you had the 18388 reference number, it had compulsory diamond bezel on it. So this was the difference between the 338 and 388. Anyway, the specialty about this watch is the dial. It was made from solid 750 18-karat gold, and the name given to this dial was embroidery dial. So Rolex back then had few dials made from solid 18-karat gold, especially the pave dials, because setting small diamonds um, on gold is somewhat easier than setting them on brass. So this is how they used to make solid 18 karat. Most of the 99% of the watches we have has brass dials on them, and then they color the front of the metal. However, with this watch, it was very different. You could, flip the dial, and at the back you could see 750 stamp on it. So this is how really, unique this watch is.
Yeah, it's excellent.
So this is how many of these? Because we've gone through a few of these solid gold dials, and I'll pull up another one here for the professor because I don't know if he's been watching a lot of the shows that we've been showing, but I'm going to pull up another dial here.
Well, when Saad shows up, when he appears, I have a ticker that I have an alert on my phone, so I have to appear.
That's great. Thank you so much.
So let me say something to those who think I just teach. I run businesses for many years, both on the investment banking arm, but also, as Saad said, I help countries with their fiscal situation. So I've run businesses, private equity firms, and investment banking arms for 4 of the largest banking institutions in the world. So the teaching comes at the end of my experience, not at the beginning. They should try the same, and let's see who's best.
So Saad, this is another all gold dial. This is the Missoni dial that we talked about earlier. What? Because you said you've had the other piece. In terms of rarity, like, I'm sure that just all solid gold dials are just extremely scarce as it is. Would you say it's equally rare to the Missoni dial? Are they all just super rare? Kind of educate us on solid gold dial.
This dial, the Missoni dial, the embroidery dial, and there is one other dial which is the honeycomb dial. That was also 750 18 karat gold. So a few other dials, even there was one champagne looking dial, plain, completely champagne dial, which was actually made from solid 18 karat gold. So there were a number of 850 yellow gold dials back then by Rolex. And even in this Missoni dial, there were few variants where they had, rubies instead of the sapphires or, some other stones. So again, the specialty about day date is only one, and that is the dial. If you buy a watch which has a normal dial on it, it's fine. But if you're really day date enthusiast, then you have to look at the dial after you're looking at the condition. Condition is first on every watch, of course, and then after the that is the dial. So this again is the Missoni version, which has ruby on them.
Yeah.
You can also check the honeycomb dial. You will like that also.
Yeah, I tried looking up the honeycomb dial. It's not really pulling up. I know which dial you're talking about. It hasn't really pulled it up. So maybe I'll look back in our chats while you and Professor talk about these dials. Of course.
Saad, let me ask you: are you actually contemplating buying gold versus watch?
Yeah, because I might sell few of my watches, liquidate them. Professor, number one is I don't wear them. I buy watches to wear them, right? And I don't like stucking my money on something that I don't use. I have few of these days that I haven't worn for years. So it's like wasting money. Number one. And number two is I always like changing stuff. I'm always looking into buying something which is more valuable. However, this is very, against the watches that I have this statement, because the day dates are known to not keep value at all, unless you have a very rare stone dial, or like this one, the 18168. So the
Oh,
18168, yeah, the
beautiful.
specialty about this watch was the reference number. It denotes the setting of the bezel. They also had this in ruby, in emerald, in diamond. So you can see, this watch was also a special order, which had jubilee bracelet instead of the usual president bracelet, and it had central links with diamonds on them. And the most special thing about this watch is the dial itself. You see how beautiful it is set.
Sad, so you want to liquidate how many day dates, if you allow me? You don't have to
I
answer,
think
of
I
course.
have a Daytona that I don't use, a steel Daytona, but Daytona have really depreciated in value. So much more than day dates. This is very unique. People thought that these steel sports watches, especially the day dates, these are like bulletproof kind of a thing when it comes to investment, or. However, it's very opposite these days. The day dates have kept value, and the Daytona has really gone down. You can find a nice 116500, or the one that I have, the 116520, for maybe 20, 22, $23,000.
Hmm.
So it's I always thought that steel sports is a bubble. This is extremely wrong statement that I'm saying, but for
Hmm.
me, when I wear a steel watch, it doesn't give me the feeling of a 20, $30,000 watch,
May I?
because out of, sorry,
No,
yes, please.
no, no, please, please. No, I was going to say, Sad, there was an excellent gentleman the other day. I think, Tanzil, you were on. Um, uh, by the way, your surname, I love it. I don't know if it's your real name, but Ansari, I have somebody called Ansari who's a dear friend.
Yeah, I think
Um,
a lot of people don't realize it's a very common name around the Middle East,
well,
India.
Pakistan, Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah. It's common. It's common in Lebanon. It's common. I
Yeah.
don't think in Turkey it's common, but
No, in Turkey, no, but Ansari, both first name and surname.
yeah.
My friend's name, Ansari, is his surname. So whenever I hear you and I hear the name Ansari, it reminds me of my dear friend, um, who is actually also, he's from Pakistan, but we both worked together for quite some time. I wanted to ask you, um, Saad, so you want to sell the watches, um, but do you feel, I mean, the issue with the steel is that it was something that the market, it was accessible, the steel. The Daytona is not easy. The gold is not easy. It's for the very affluent or the ones who want to pretend they're affluent. But there was a gentleman a few days ago, Tanzil, you were there, who distinguished in a very remarkable way the watches between the landlord and the tenant. Right? You
Yes,
remember that?
that was Richard Prophet. Yes, 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 yes.
I love this guy. I like, it was a very simple way, but it was a very accurate way, in my opinion, where he said, the day date is a landlord watch. And he said he wanted to wear a day date when he was taken to the hospital, or if he dies, they want to find him with a day date. And I like that um, approach to life, because steel, as you say, Saad, it is a watch that is for the many. But of course, Rolex is twisting it because now they're making it more rare, and they're going the Patek way. Patek back in the early 70s did exactly that with the Nautilus. The price of the Nautilus was from the 1970s equal to the price of the gold Rolex back in the early 1970s, right? So back, if you look at advertisements of Patek on the Nautilus, they said they were selling the watch that you're buying it, but for the same price of a gold, but it is a gold piece, but you were buying a steel piece. So I like this appreciation that you have for gold watches. The only thing is that not everybody can wear gold watches, because Not
Yeah,
everybody.
there's a lot of reasons. Yeah, I think a lot of the punters didn't understand when ABCA said, some people can't wear it for religious reasons.
Yes.
Patek Philippe made it the 5130 watch with the Mecca city on the world time in platinum for the Middle East market because religious reasons. Muslim men don't wear gold, and so they made it in platinum. We do have a day date in gold question here from Stuart Crook, £2. Would the day date 41 with yellow dials keep value? And I pulled up a day date with a champagne dial. So
Charges for that.
Yeah, so Rolex day date came in 4 sizes. One was 36 millimeter, other was 39 millimeter, then which was called the masterpiece, of course. The third one is 41 millimeter, and then they downsized the fourth version. They discontinued the 41 millimeter and brought it to 40 millimeter. Now the watch we are seeing here is the 41 millimeter. I can understand from the width of the bezel and also the end lengths. It shows me that this is a 41 millimeter watch with reference number 128238. These were extremely failed models. I would never buy this one due to few reasons. Number one, the width of the bezel versus the dial ratio was totally wrong. It looked really like a fake watch, to be honest. Secondly, it also had the old movement, big watch with old movement with same reserve power and everything. So it was just a if it's like somebody in a hurry made that small 36 millimeter larger. So this reference was then replaced with the 228238 in 2015, which is till this date available, which looks like a very, very proper refined 36 millimeter. However, it is 40 millimeter. This looks perfect. You see the bezel versus dial ratio. So it is, like a proper looking watch. If you really want a big day date, then this is one to go. It also has the 3255 movement, the newer version. So it is more accurate, ±2 accuracy, and reserve power is also increased. So go for this one if you really want to have a big day date.
we do have
And
another
of course,
super chat.
he also asked the champagne, the golden dial.
Golden
Yeah, most of the people, they are, whenever they think about buying a day date, so they go for the champagne version first. It's like getting a Ferrari. The first color that comes into your mind is red color. So this is the classic day date. Oh
We have a
no!
special guest here, still in bed.
Hey guys, how are you?
Archie, you got a super chat here. You got to read for us. If you can read.
Swinging
Straight to work.
$10. I'm with Saad. I do wear my watches and rotate them regularly. Regarding of activity on that day, I don't use my two-tone Daytona as an investment piece. Yes, one day I may get my money back on that watch, or no, who knows? There we go. Thank you,
Archie,
so
we
much.
have the professor online. We have Saad online. JJ said JJ was on. Higgins was on. Show us what you're drinking. You're in bed. You're still drinking. You got another super chat, Archie. You got to work. You're even in bed. You got another super chat.
Mr. GMT, $5. I love my day date, even if people think it's shitty. Stay sexy.
All right, Saad. Now you can be a little vicious to Beamerovich over here, Mr. AC3.
He is my boss, AC3. So I shut up when he comes on the panel.
Hey, I've been using that pen. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Glad you like it.
Mobster, $2. Arch, do you still get morning wood? Hey, it's been a while. If I wake up and I'm in a good frame of mind, that's the best thing I can have. I had a good sleep. I'm about to get up, brush my teeth, have a shave, and get ready for the show. That's what I'm about to do.
We've been live streaming for almost 3 hours. We'll probably give it another 30 minutes. So we have a bit of a
Holy
break.
shit.
We did a great stream. We had Higgins on, we had Jin on, we had JJ on, we've had Saad and the professor, and Dis, who's been helping me run the show. A lot of great panelists, and yeah, look, we were trying to run something for the European hours. I started around 1:30 my time, and we've really covered a lot of the European hours. A lot of European punters are on as well. So we just wanted to let you know that it's been a good stream. We got 80 people watching right now, so we were happy to see you log on and say hello.
Hey, that's exactly it. Thank you so much. I'll be up and we'll be streaming in an hour and a half.
Thank you, Arch. We'll let you get to your morning routine. Thanks for saying hello.
Thank you so much. I love it.
So, Professor, what's your take on this piece? You saw this day date. You heard Saad's take on it. He didn't like I think I showed the day date 2 before it. Saad's like he's a big fan of day date 41. Saad, so the champagne dial. Sorry, I think Archie came in when you were talking about that. Champagne dial. You're not a fan of the champagne dial. You are a fan. Well, give us your take on that.
I have two champagne dials basically. One is champagne diamond dial with baguettes, and other is the watch is ever rose gold, so it also has it doesn't have. It has a pink diamond dial. So I have a champagne diamond dial watch. It is basically, whenever you get into day date, the first thing comes into your mind is getting the champagne version. It's a classic. It's like having a Lamborghini in yellow color. Is it their official color 10? I'm not, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Lamborghini back in the day were not really producing red cars because of their competition with Ferrari. So you'd see the Miura in an orange. You could see it in the green. Yellow is definitely a very very light color in Lamborghinis. So usually speaking, if you're buying a Lamborghini, I unfortunately got mine in red, so don't give me too much shit. But when usually I tell people that are buying one, I say, well, try to get one in green or try to get one in orange or try to get one in yellow, right? Because it's definitely very iconic for that car.
Saad, what do you think the green dial?
I have one in the green as well. It came for just few years, very rare model. But the 36 millimeter, I have a 118-238 green. So the value has increased substantially on that piece. However, I'm looking to buy, Professor, if you can help me one day. I know the contacts that you have. First option is to get the platinum version. But if finances doesn't allow me, then I'll go for the 228-238 green. That green is basically the same Stella lacquered version of the 70s. It has same exact, almost same texture like that.
This is the latest one. This is for the 60th anniversary, Saad.
Yeah, this is the 228-235, the ever rose version. So this has olive green dial. Yeah, I personally like the new 2022 release, which was in yellow gold with the normal green color. That was more good looking.
They have also in yellow gold with the green Rolex dial.
Yeah, this is the first one I was talking about. Yeah,
in 40 millimeter. That is a beautiful watch. Very also difficult to get. Not as like the Eisenkiesel, but
actually, this is somewhat little bit difficult than Eisenkiesel, to be honest, Professor. Slightly difficult than Eisenkiesel.
The Everose? The Everose?
This one, the one Tenzil is showing us, the 228-238 yellow gold with Stella green dial. It's ultra difficult to get watch.
No, I think, look, I stand to be corrected, but I think the Eisenkiesel is even more difficult.
I've seen many Eisenkiesels, but not even one of these.
One of this you haven't seen?
Not even one of these.
Okay.
I've seen many Eisenkiesels, even in the 36 millimeter, in the 40 millimeter. Yeah, it's not that hard to get. I mean, of course, you need to be a VIP client for both of these watches.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
So if you really want to understand whether the watch that Tanzil is showing is 36 millimeter or 40 millimeter, the easiest way is, on the 40 millimeter, they have baguettes all around. And with the 36 millimeter, they have Roman figures. That's the easiest way to know whether if it's 36 or 40.
Yeah, GMT. Actually, Archie read your super chat, but I'll pull it up again. Mr. GMT, $5 Australian. I love my day date, even if people think it's shit. Stay sexy. So yes, we did read it. Archie read it as well. So you got a bit more value because Archie was here to read it at the time. And Jonathan
Between
says,
the two, Saad, which one do you prefer, the yellow, gold, green, or the platinum? Fluted.
I think platinum with the fluted bezel is a one and done watch for me. I will stop looking at Rolex website after that.
I am 110% with you. Everybody else will continue talking about Pepsi, Mepsi.
Bullshit, yeah.
I got the Cermit,
Submariner.
Vermit,
I have
blue,
Yachtmaster
black.
2. I have Yachtmaster 3,
we're
4,
waiting
5.
for the Coke, Milkhouse, new case, old case.
Sprite or opposite
Yeah,
Pepsi.
Popeye came, Olive came, Snoopy, Moopy, Loopy.
Yeah,
I
we're
want to
just
do the same, by the way.
yeah. No, this is the top of the heap.
If you look at certain occasions, I will tell you the CEO, the older CEO of Rolex, in 2000, well, the 3 CEOs ago, only wore the 36 millimeter smooth bezel platinum. That's the only one he wore.
The 118206. El
That's the
Professor,
only one he wore.
To be honest, I'm being dead honest here. If somebody has a body like you, or like GMT, or like bondage and discipline, which is called normal human being's body, not like a fat, rascals like us. Sorry for using these terms in front of you. But a 36 millimeter watch is perfect for a normal human being.
Yeah.
These 40 day dates look good also. I don't say that date. I used to have one in white gold. But the thing is, 36 millimeter, if you are a normal person, if you have a normal body, then I would say, and by the way, the newer 36 millimeters, the 6-digit reference numbers were actually 37 to 38 millimeters. They were slightly, you can see even here, the lugs are thicker than the previous 5-digit reference numbers. So if you could, I've used vernier caliper in measuring one of I can send a picture to Tanzil right now if he wants to. It was actually 37 millimeter. Yeah. I'll just find it and send it to you. You can keep on continue with the topic, please.
So, Professor, you prefer this one? Do you prefer this one? Do you prefer the fluted? What's your take?
Fluted. The last one, the latest one. Yeah, the fluted. And I'm of the same mindset. I know it goes against the trend, and it will. If everyone was like us, probably they wouldn't even do super chats or YouTube or look at any other discussion about watches if we buy one and done. But I think it's a watch that tells a lot. Of course, there are so many other watch collectors who will say, but these guys are idiots. They're going to buy a very basic watch, basic mechanism, no thrills, no bells and whistles, no complication. For $70,000, you can buy whatever this Mange, Pange, Audemars, Vacheron, Kanin, Vaitulainen, Heidi Umuchinainen, all these unpronounceable names, and we can be branded as debutantes, beginners.
Yes, can you read this comment from ArchieLuxury live stream, please?
Who?
You, this. You want your pronunciation.
Mange, Pange, Audemars, Kanin, Vaitulainen.
We love it.
I loved when you guys. No, it was you and Saad. You were doing this special, and you had this guy who had this platinum, watch was, his name is Hafiz Mohammed, or
Yes.
and you guys were commenting on the watch, and Saad made an excellent point. He said this guy likes to show off his biceps and his body more than the watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got Saad's measurements up here. This is the first one, Saad.
Oh.
I don't know if Saad's still there. He was sending me the pictures.
Oh.
But this is a first measurement showing 38. Go ahead, Saad.
So, this is the date just 116233, the normal 36 millimeter date just. And I properly measured this and then just put the vernier caliper on in front of it just to show that I have measured it from 4 to 10. So it came at around 38.36 millimeter. This is real life measurements. However, they are advertised as 36 millimeter. When you wear this watch, you instantly feel that this is a bigger watch than the 5-digit 16233s. So this was one of the photograph, and the other was, I think, of the date 40 that I had in white gold. So you see, Al Professor here, the watch measures around 40.15 millimeter from the same diagonal position. So they're advertised at 40 millimeter, but this is slightly bigger than 40. So even my date 36, I cannot find the photograph. It was measured like 36 millimeter in real life.
Go ahead. You can read the super chat. This. Go ahead.
Super chat
So
from
Big
Big
Mitch.
Mitch.
Yeah, sure.
You want to read it, son?
You read it, please.
Okay. Big Mitch, $10 US. I always buy watches for hype and flexing. It's the only reason to be in this hobby. I always buy the most expensive or popular or latest models to show you have money. Watches are for flexing, not for collecting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at the time, better get a Apple Watch and see how many calories you burn, and if you're going to have a heart attack, and if it's going to call the ambulance, and then it will talk on your behalf and connect to the moon, and then have prepare dinner eventually and coffee. Yeah, for $800 you get all that, but it's all about flexing and also your personal gratification. That, hey, like what's his name, Mr. Landlord said, this is my watch. This is my, I buy the watch to show myself and people that I can afford to buy these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's an accomplishment, appreciation. That's how I see it. And I agree also with Jonathan that I think on a 36 millimeter, the smooth bezel is the ideal watch for the platinum version. The fluted is, in reality, it's basically you're buying into the latest, and the sophistication.
All of the dates until recently were in fluted bezel when it came to platinum. The polished bezel, like the dome one that we see here. The 5-digit reference, the 6-digit reference, and even the bigger 40 millimeter, the 228206, which was recently discontinued and replaced by the fluted bezel, which people thought that Rolex cannot make a fluted bezel, in platinum, which is totally false, because they can make these crowns. You see the crowns in platinum. How cannot they make fluted bezel in platinum? It was just, to differentiate between a platinum watch and a white gold watch, where it's okay. This is a very rare made by platinum. I also would like to say one thing. Back in the day, especially with these and the 5-digit reference number, how would you know whether the dial is for the platinum version or the white gold, Professor? There was only one way to find out, and that was, you see these baguettes, 2 baguettes.
Mm-hmm.
On the platinum version, the baguettes were slightly longer than the one they had on the white gold version. Other than that, there was no way. to know whether this dial is platinum or white gold.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Saad, so if you had the choice between the yellow gold and the platinum, you would get the platinum, one and done.
Yeah, I'm somewhat more into platinum. I want to try platinum, Professor.
Wear
I
it
never had a
to see
platinum watch
the
yet. Yeah, I like heavy watches. And number two is yellow gold is, I have worn it for 20 years, more than that, so I'm looking forward for the this watch. Shah of Iran also had one of these, the Shah of Iran.
Shah Reza Pahlavi.
Yeah, he had one of these watches. And this is solid platinum watch with the ox blood stellar dial. Very, very rare to find.
Yeah.
Oh, you can find his picture here. Yeah.
Okay.
He also had a very, he was the person who made Nautilus famous, actually. He
Really?
made Nautilus. Yeah, and you can see Shah of Iran's Patek Philippe Nautilus, and you will find one. He also made Audemars Piguet famous, He had one with the mesh dial. It was a very rare integrated bracelet kind of a watch.
Yeah. Don't you think also this is not the right time to be selling your collection, even if...
Professor, I can do one more thing. The prices of the date 40 millimeter have gone down a little bit. So I have the opportunity to sell one of the 36 millimeters at a good price if I get a good price, and then add some money to it and get a 40 millimeter. Just, playing with it. Again, it is not my investment, aspect for looking at these things. So I can play with them sometimes.
Yeah. Or the other thing is you might want to wait a little bit unless you need to sell the watches to buy your other watch, because selling now is a bad option. I mean, this is the worst time to be selling. It's like all these guys who bought Tesla at 600 and 700, and now, after the stock split, it's at 100 or thereabouts, and they're dying and crying, and they're waiting for the resurrection of Christ.
Yeah. One other watch that I would like to bring into notice of Tanzil is the very, very rare 18059 reference number. So that was, I think, only 3 in the world, 3 watches or 5 watches. The one with the rainbow bezel. Yeah, this one. So again, as Tanzil asked me a very important question, that how could one order these watches? And the answer was, you couldn't. A normal person couldn't. If you were from the royal family, like this watch was commissioned for the Sultan of Oman. You can see his
Yes.
coat of arms here at the back. So only the royals could get watches which was customized. They also produced few of these, I think 2 watches in yellow gold, which was also very, very rare. Yeah. So this particular piece was actually new old stock. This was never ever in my, if I'm not mistaken, never worn by the Sultan.
This is Khanjar. This is Oman.
Yeah. This is Khanjar. Khanjar is the sword,
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say if it was worn or not. It just, I'm trying to go through the condition, but yeah, it doesn't say anything about it being worn or not.
If you can see the same reference with, if you replace 9 with 8, you will see, another. Those were the actual rainbows that Rolex produced back then.
Guys, I'm going to sleep. It's midnight here.
Oh.
On this, I'll be probably ending the show in about 10 minutes, so no worries. Appreciate you staying on for 3 hours, helping us out.
Yeah, sure, man. Sure. Great show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
See you, Tan. See you, Professor. Always good to see you. And
Shalom.
Take care of yourself.
Goodbye, chat. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
792,000 Swiss francs is sold for, Saad.
Wow.
The original rainbow.
The original rainbow, exactly. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about this rainbow, Saad. They say it's possibly
So
unique, spectacular. I don't think this is a piece unique, but they're saying it's potentially unique.
I think there were two made, 2 or 3, something like that, but no more than 5. 5 should be the maximum if you are in same. And you can see, even the disc on this watch was colored in blue, so that was also very unique back then. And this did never did this. They did this with another reference number which had red discs on it. So, uh, you know, the specialty again about this is. The rainbow bezel and also the rainbow dial, uh, which you find on the newer Daytonas these days. So, but this was the actual rainbow.
Hmm. So we need to sell 5 watches, 6. No, you need to sell 3 watches to get the platinum.
Yeah, no, but
Two.
in
To
that
get
way, I will never, spend sell so many of the watches. I will just sell one, and then add some money to it. So one other reference number that I missed last time was the 18148, which also had the very weirdo looking bezel on it. I mean, these are ugly watches to be, in a normal person's eye. But I am just showing you guys that how creative Rolex was back then.
in the 80s, I think Saad on the day dates, and probably I would say the 70s, but you know more. I've seen it in people's wrists. They were really. I have the impression that Rolex was innovating.
Yes, and
Stylistically.
in the 70s they had a very very rare model, and which was replaced with the Crown collection and then Masterpiece, which was called the Octopussy. So Octopussy came in with the 4-digit reference number. They had huge, tremendously huge diamonds on the bracelet, and they also had few of them made in 5-digit reference number with the sapphire glass. So that was a very rare model to have.
And they also had the bracelet, which was the not the brushed, but it was a rough texture in the middle.
Yeah, of course, that was in the 70s till 90s, the bark finish you are talking about.
Yes.
We are 18048, I believe. Yeah, you see this one now. So, okay, we have a super chat.
Yeah, I'll just read the super chat here. Stefan, £1.79. Thanks, Stefan. Loving the day chat, gents. Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much,
think
Stefan.
it's wonderful to talk about this because really, Tanzil and Saad, every day there is kind of like a broken record discussion. Oh, Pepsi, or Kermit, or Starbucks, or I don't know what, and it's the same. But this one is more difficult for people to grasp because it is unattainable for a lot of people naturally. But
So,
it's
yeah. So, Professor, back then there was another unique aspect that people don't know. If you, for example, bought a watch a day date which had normal fluted bezel on it, you could change the bezel. Rolex will do that for you and restamp the reference number. Even here, you can see, if I'm not wrong here, I had another example for Tanzil, but here you can see reference 1804, stamped 1803. So this means that this has 2 reference numbers, 1804 and 1803. I mean, later this had the diamond bezel fitted by the factory, and they restamped the watch.
And why was that, Sad?
This was just to make things in order for the record, so that the watch is now equipped with the original diamond bezel from the factory. But they stopped doing that later, because it could create, confusion. People giving their watches just to change the bezel to diamond one and then restamping. Restamping in itself is a big confusion. So we have super chat.
While you pull up, while you pull up the other reference you want me to pull up, £2 from Finchy. I appreciate a lot of the Europeans, the British, the Irish, and those on the mainland of Europe joining us. This stream was made for you guys who've been streaming your time zone today before Archie starts. £2 from Finchy. Great stream and panel. Simply the best.
So if you can see the 6612 reference number, if you can search, if you can find it, dates 6612. Maybe if you're date, it will be very difficult to find it. 6612, and also write 6613. Maybe you can. Okay, the one with the black dial. You see that? Yeah. So
I'm going to pull it up on the actual website from the auction house.
So here in the description, you can read that the watch was originally, it has 6612 and 6613. So there were two reference numbers. And if you can look at the photographs, especially of the case back, there is two reference numbers stamped on it. So the one 6612 shows that it had a fluted bezel, and the 6613 shows that it had a diamond bezel. So this watch was later upgraded to a diamond bezel watch. Hence, they had to restamp the reference number.
Now, that's actually quite fascinating to me. Because often you see, like, in the subs, they had a 5512 and a 5513, and the 5513 was the Submariner, the non-chronometer certified, and the 5512 was the chronometer certified. And sometimes, because it's the same model, just probably regulated differently, they would just interchange the case backs. Whereas here, the case back number change was specific to an upgrade or a change of the actual watch, which is, like I said, extremely fascinating to me. I didn't know that. But this one sold for 63,000 Swiss francs. I don't know what year it was sold. It's a 1959 piece, but interesting choice of hands they have on the classic day dates.
Yeah. Is this called the sword hands?
I don't know if they call it the sword hands or not. This is a classic hand design that they use in older Rolexes. I don't know the exact term for the hands, but let's see if they have the description of the hands here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. So even they write here, in this case, while the number 6612 is present both between the lugs and inside the case back, the number 6613 appears stamped on the back underneath 6612, indicating that the watch was upgraded at a later stage. Very cool. Doesn't say anything about the hands. But yeah, this is a platinum watch, 6612. So guys, I'm going to round up here on the end of the stream here because we've been going for almost 3.5 hours. Final words, Saad, and final words, Professor, from you.
Final words from Professor should be the first. Yeah.
No, please.
Okay, my final words is I love you, Tanzil, and I love you, El Professor.
Okay.
Okay, I will then reciprocate and say I love you both. Lovey, kissy, kissy, and all that. And of course, the esteemed other panelists who joined and sustained for 3.5 hours this conversation. No, I think it's very good. It's healthy to be discussing and debating. And I mean, we are also talking about a world that is quite intransparent. Watchmakers are not as transparent, but hopefully with more discussion, they will become more transparent, and knowledge sharing is excellent. And there is no right or wrong in this world. It's a hobby and we should all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great words, guys. I'll read this last super chat here before I wrap. Madman, $5 Australian. Loving these morning streams before I start work. Great watch talk. General Saad and Tan are legends. Also, we're going to include the professor in there. I want to thank everybody who joined. Dis, who helped me do the admin work today. We had Curly Q, who was supporting at the start. We had Higgins, GMT, JJ, Professor, Saad, and everybody in the chat. Like I said, I put this stream together for mainly the European group and now obviously for the Australian group that's waking up in the morning. We had Archie, who showed up for a nice little cameo. We will be back on in an hour with Archie's main stream, but to kind of chime what Professor was saying, we really take the streams when we're on, not to talk about a little bit off the beaten path, right? There's a lot of streams you can go to that are going to talk about Pepsis and Cermits and Daytonas, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, those watches are great watches. We really want to talk about something a little different, bring a little bit of variety. There's always goodness and variety in life. The watch collecting hobby is very, can be very deep and can have a lot of depth to it in terms of, the variety of pieces out there. So, come in with an open mind. Don't just think about the dollars and cents you're going to save or gain or potentially lose. You can really, go on your journey, explore what you like, explore the unknown. And I think that's really what makes it fruitful and, really exciting for me and hopefully for everybody on the panel. With that, though, guys, I will wrap. I'll end the broadcast. We're going to start it back in an hour. I had to actually switch audio because my AirPods were dying. But thank you so much to everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll see you guys in about an hour's time.
Thank you, Tan and Professor.
Thank you.